You're smoking some of the best dope God ever put breath in.
Thank God it's Friday!
All right, welcome to the Turks. Cenk Uygur, John Iadarola with you guys. Just about an enormous day of news. And it's not a coincidence. There's a pattern here that you're gonna see. So Don Lemon was arrested today. So the arrest of media that opposes Trump has begun. And so he was arrested in LA. We're in LA. Hey ICE, how you doing? Or whatever, or Border Patrol, or Rando Justice Department, or Israel, or whatever, whoever's in charge, okay? So we'll get to that story in a second. The Epstein files are also released today. I wonder if the Don Lemon arrest had anything to do with making sure people aren't paying as much attention to the Epstein files. We'll get to that in a minute. And by the way, if you think that distraction's big, wait till you get a load of Iran.
That's the sandwich.
Yeah,
okay?
Exactly.
Before and after.
Exactly. And in fact, as you're gonna see tonight, us attacking Iran this weekend is enormously likely. So another war is coming. And of course, Israel's all over the Epstein files. So hurry up and get that war plus a distraction. It's perfect. Anyways, lots to get to. Record-breaking day in news. John.
Yes, okay. It's all bad, it's all dark. Let's start with this first part.
These are resistance protesters. They're planning an operation that we're going to follow them on. I can't tell you exactly what they're doing, but it's called Operation Pull Up. And so that's what we're doing here. And then after we do this operation, you'll see it live. And these operations are surprise operations. Again, can't tell you where they're going and where we're gathered right now. I'm just here photographing.
Are you okay?
I'm not part of the group. I'm just here photographing. I'm a journalist. I think they found out according to them, this is according to Operation Pull Up, that one of the pastors here is a member of ICE. And so here we go. So we're here just chronicling and reporting. We're not part of the activists, but we're here just reporting on them.
So there was Don Lemon chronicling and reporting, saying over and over, I'm not a part of it, I'm just reporting, I'm just photographing, all of that, which is what you would say to hide the fact that you're a terrorist, I suppose. Because as you probably know at this point, he was arrested by the Trump administration for functioning as a member of the media, documenting a newsworthy event, which used to be a thing you could do, but now we're not so sure. Cenk, your 2 cents?
Yeah, so the arrest of media criticizing Trump has begun. Where will this end? Well, that's a good question that we'll discuss in a second. Is there any real reason why he should have been arrested? Well, you know what the answer is, absolutely not. But why? We're gonna show you some evidence as to how they tried to arrest him earlier and couldn't. And so this is nothing but a political prosecution, and we're gonna prove it to you and then talk about the ramifications.
Exactly, yeah. I guess they tested it out with the comedians and the talk show hosts, and now they're moving on here. Along the way, they also were deporting people who wrote op-eds and things like that. So basically, every form of criticism is now illegal. We would love to give you in-depth details into exactly what's going on, but this isn't a functional democracy. Why would we have that information? We have few details at this point. We do know that he was arrested last night. He's expected to appear in court today. Several of the protesters that were at that protest, as well as other members of the media, were arrested at the same time as Don Lemon. One reporter actually videotaped it happening to her. And we know from NBC News reporting last week, because right-wing media immediately jumped to attention trying to get him arrested when this protest happened. A federal magistrate judge had rejected a criminal complaint against Don Lemon, according to a source familiar with the matter, who described Pam Bondi as enraged by the decision. So they appealed it to a federal appeals court. that judge also said, no, there's no evidence that he broke the law. He's a member of the media. What are you talking about? And so Pam Bondi, a serious attorney general, not just like a Trump lawyer functioning as the head of the DOJ, said, okay, one court rejected it, second court rejected it. Who the hell cares? I'll get a grand jury, which can, as we have often pointed out, indict a ham sandwich. And so in this case, they did. And Lemon has now been charged with violating the FACE Act. That makes it a federal crime with potentially steep fines and jail time to use or threaten to use force to injure, intimidate, or interfere with a person seeking reproductive health services or with a person lawfully trying to exercise the First Amendment right of religious freedom at a place of religious worship. It also prohibits intentional property damage to a facility providing reproductive health services or a place of religious worship. And I mean, you saw the video. Did it look like he cold cocked anyone? Did it look like he just lifted the pulpit above his head and dashed it against the wall? No, he didn't do literally any of that stuff. He had a camera, which we are constantly now being reminded is considered by the Trump administration to be the most dangerous weapon of all. Here's what Don Lemon had to say about this in a statement to Fox News Digital. Is before his arrest. It's notable that I've been cast as the face of a protest I was covering as a journalist, especially since I wasn't the only reporter there. That framing is telling. What's even more telling is the barrage of violent threats along with homophobic and racist slurs directed at me online by MAGA supporters and amplified by parts of the right-wing press. If this much time and energy is going to be spent manufacturing outrage, it would be far better used investigating the tragic death of Renee Nicole Good, the very issue that brought people in the streets in the first place. I stand by my reporting. And I think he's right to link those two things. I think that focusing on this for the last week and a half, trying to get Don Lemon, was a convenient way for regular MAGA people as well as their media propagandists to distract from the fact that, oh, they've gunned down another person. This is looking really dark. Trump is losing control of the narrative. There's chaos in the streets. All of that is just psychically, it's difficult to process if you're MAGA. Let's just simplify things, make it about, hey, there is a gay black reporter, let's take his ass down. That's all you need to think about. And it looks like it's working on a large number of them. Legally, I don't see what possible case they have here. And the weaponized prosecutions that they've been engaging in routinely for the last year have mostly failed to this point, Cenk. But what do you think about where this will go?
Yeah, so I don't think it's at all a coincidence that this was done on the day that the Epstein files were being released. It's twofer, it distracts you at a time that they need to distract you. And number two, it's red meat for his base. So his base hated that he went into a church and committed an act of journalism, and they say, no way, how dare you, etc. We'll come back to that in a second. So for Trump, it couldn't be any better. As you'll see later in the show, in the Epstein files, there's allegations that Trump was with a 13-year-old. So he does not want that to be the headline today. Now, whether those allegations are true or not, again, we'll discuss later in the show. And by the way, allegations that he has been, from an FBI report about how Trump has been co-opted by Israel. So those are not things he wants in the headline. Don Lemon arrested. And his base is worried about Israel. His base is angry about Epstein. He's like, oh, don't worry, here's a guy you hate. Go get him, and attack, right? So then people say, okay, what about isms? So what if they went into a mosque or a synagogue, right-wingers did, and Brett Baier went in with them? Well, first of all, under no circumstances would I want Brett Baier arrested
obviously
in a situation like that. That's crazy, right? So great, I'm happy to do the whataboutisms and the shoe on the other foot. But guys, in terms of how you want to judge this and how do you think about it, look, when you see something like this, whether it's the protesters or Don Lemon, those are two different categories, by the way. Okay, they do something where they go into a church and they happen to disrupt a service there. So the disrupting the service is problematic. So if you say, hey, I disagree with that, no problem at all. I totally get it. That's a normal disagreement among Americans. And some people will say, hey, listen, protests are supposed to make you a little uncomfortable. And so they draw attention to an important issue that way. So you could clash over that, and that's nothing wrong with that, right? So then the next layer is civil. I'm gonna take civil action. So Donald Trump has been targeting the press who's criticizing him. So if he disagrees with the press, no problem, the most normal thing in the world, right? If I was the president, I'm sure that I would attack the press that I thought was being dishonest pretty regularly, right? Okay, then you get to, well, what's civil action? Well, he says, well, I'm gonna sue CBS, I'm gonna sue ABC, I'm gonna sue Facebook. I want money, okay? I want money, and you better watch yourself. You say anything, you got any slight edit wrong. I want 10 million, I want 15 million, I want billions, right? So that's a huge problem when a politician does it, okay? Then you've got regulatory action. The president goes, you know what, I'm gonna block your merger, or I'm not going to approve deregulation for you. Or I'm gonna take away your license because a comic you have on air has hurt my fifis. And I'm a very sensitive politician, so you don't make jokes about me, okay? So now regulatory is already like massively disastrous. Civil was disastrous, right? And guys, for God's sake, it's not that hard. You wanna do show on the other foot? Okay, what if Biden was president, Kamala was president, Obama was president? And he's like, oh, well, you know what, pick a guy. Megyn Kelly, okay, to pick just a prominent right winger. Megyn Kelly went in the same exact scenario, goes into a mosque, etc. And so we're now arresting Megyn Kelly. Oh, she also happened to criticize Biden a lot. And look at all these people who are criticizing Biden. Now I'm suing this right-wing publication and that right-wing publication, and I'm blocking their mergers. But now we've gotten to the ultimate, the nuclear option. Forget about taking their money and blocking their businesses. Just put him in jail.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't like him. I don't like him. And so he went into a church. That seems bad. A lot of people disagree with that. So let's just lock him up. No, I disagree with that. Does not equal take away his freedom.
Yeah.
And look, don't forget Don Lemon. Don Lemon's a real human being, and he deserves to be out of prison. And this is madness. It's extreme madness. Okay, but on top of that, guys, it's not just taking away Don Lemon's freedom. It's taking away our First Amendment, freedom of the press, freedom of speech, freedom to protest government, etc. And if you give that away, you're not going to get it back. So this is the first test. It definitely will not be the last test. If you let him get away with it, not only will Trump arrest more and more people in media who criticize him, but he'll have set a precedent so that any politician now can go, okay, I'm already getting bribed by everybody. Did you say bribe in prison, right wing, left wing, who cares? The powerful want to protect their power. You think they're gonna be like, oh no, those are beloved right wingers or independents. We're not gonna touch them. No, they'll put you away at any sign of you challenging their power if you happily go along with this. So last thing, John, on this round is, look, like if you try, again, the whataboutism, if you go try to get into a synagogue like this, don't do that, okay? So don't do any of this, but in a synagogue, you're gonna be faced with significant security, so you're gonna be in a lot of trouble. And look, they're protecting themselves, I get it, they're worried, right? So now, I don't want people busting into churches or mosques or anywhere else and breaking up their service and etc. So, but Don Lemon is documenting it. If you say he cannot document it, that means we can't have any press documenting anything. Think about it this way. Last analogy here, John. Imagine if a right winger went into the church to document it like, these protesters are terrible, right? Like Matt Walsh goes in with them and he's like, look, these are the terrible protesters busting into a church. Then should Matt Walsh be arrested? Because he would have been doing the same exact thing as Lemon. Opinion on the issue is irrelevant. That is not a criminal thing. Hey, you did this action, plus I don't like your opinion, is not the equivalent of a crime. Whether you like his opinion or don't like his opinion on the protest is irrelevant to his actions and whether they are criminal. So if you really say a right winger that is filming any protest in a similar situation should be locked up, well, I say, okay, at least you're being consistent. But you know you're not gonna say that because it's mental, and it's also mental when Don Lemon's locked up.
Well, we're gonna turn to what some right wingers have said about this. I just wanna quickly add, there's some other convenient stuff happening right now. One, on top of all the other distractions, remember Trump also threatened Obama to be arrested today. Again, it really seems like he desperately wants you thinking about anything other than those Epstein files today. Yeah, and so there's that. And then also, I think Look, a lot of Americans, especially basically 4 out of 5 independents, are utterly turned off by all this nonsense that they're seeing. Not just what Trump is doing, but how it's an utter violation of everything that his movement has pretended to be in terms of their shredding the Constitution and everything. Maybe Trump doesn't see it that way though. Maybe he thinks, well, I've gotten right-wingers to accept so many rights being taken away. They barely even cared that much when I said that Second Amendment shouldn't even exist. He's saying right to protest shouldn't exist. Well, now right to media, right to the press. Maybe he can get them to fundamentally turn against that. He's been paving the way for years with all the fake news stuff. Maybe he needs to really test it by locking up a bunch of reporters. Maybe it's Don Lemon, then Mehdi Hassan. Maybe the next day, Jon Stewart sometimes. He gets pretty sassy. Maybe just starts locking up a bunch of them. And will the right wing actually freak out? Well, let's give you a little bit of a preview right now. Conservative commenters are, perhaps not surprisingly, I guess, mostly supportive of the fact that a member of the media was arrested for documenting a protest. We're gonna start with Megyn Kelly, who said, for those saying this is criminalizing journalism, which is what it is literally doing, journalists don't get a pass when breaking the law just because they have a mic. If I accompanied people storming an abortion clinic, harassing / scaring / traumatizing, which she puts in quotation marks because she can't get through even this analogy of hers without mocking women who have been traumatized in these situations. The crying women while saying, but I'm a reporter, I would absolutely have been charged under any dem admin. So first of all, you'll notice she just says he's breaking the law. She doesn't provide any evidence. She doesn't say specifically what he did that broke the law. She just claims it without evidence because she's given up on being a serious journalist. Also, no, you wouldn't be. If you had been documenting an anti-abortion protest, Obama would not have locked you up. Joe Biden would not have locked you up. Bill Clinton would not have locked you up. You don't actually believe that. You are the most pathetic of grifters in existence.
I actually think she might believe it, which I don't know if that's better or worse. But look, I'm happy to answer that question. So if the people bust into an abortion clinic and they've broken this law and they're disturbing people in this incredibly private, sensitive moment, etc., we do have to look to see if the protesters themselves are breaking the law. I get it under both circumstances. But if there was a TYT reporter nearby and they asked me, should I follow the protesters in to document what they're doing? I would say absolutely. Into the abortion clinic, right? Or into the church or into a mosque or wherever they're going, because you're a reporter. Your job is to document interesting news events like that. No, the reporter should not get arrested. If you say the reporter should get arrested, you're saying, let's light the First Amendment on fire. Because remember, the First Amendment is not just freedom of speech. Freedom of the press is also in there. In fact, the media is the only protected organization or profession in the entire Constitution.
Yeah.
So this is a very, very serious thing to arrest a reporter who conveniently happens to be on the other side and has criticized your actions.
Yeah, and by the way, look how generous we're being and how seriously we take protection of the press, that we'll extend that freedom in this hypothetical, not just to actual members of the press, but pathetic people like Megyn Kelly, whose job in the press these days is mostly about justifying single moms being shot in the face and explaining why rich men wanting to have sex with 15-year-olds aren't really pedophiles. We're still gonna protect her from being imprisoned. Aren't we generous? But she's not alone. Patrick Bet-David also said this: arresting Don Lemon is the right move. Never in the history of journalism has a well-known journalist joined protesters to enter a church during worship and confront a pastor. If nothing happens here, it sets a dangerous precedent. It invites copycats, YouTubers, activists, citizen journalists to storm churches, mosques, and other places of worship, chasing clicks and virality. That's playing with fire. Even Hunter S. Thompson, the pioneer of gonzo journalism, never crossed into active worship. I disagree with Don Lemon on many issues. There is a need for his views, whether you agree with him or not, but entering a place of worship crosses a line. If it breaks the law, and for the people actually doing it, again, he's not assaulting anyone, he's not breaking anything, he is a goddamn member of the media, and I don't understand why it's so difficult for these people to understand that, except that understanding it and then advocating for Don Lemon to be protected might be incredibly unpopular with their audience, and maybe Don Lemon isn't the person who's been captured by his audience, maybe it's these members of the right wing. Robbie Sove, libertarian, was one of the few that we were able to find who was more hesitant towards all this, says, this seems very concerning. That isn't much, but at least it isn't applauding what's going on. And I think we have a little bit of video of Ben Shapiro, who perhaps is also at least slightly mixed up about this.
To be fair to Lemon, and just speaking legally, there is a fine line between a journalist doing a ride along, even with people who are committing criminal act, which, by the way, is legal. Like, journalists do this on a fairly regular basis. And journalists being involved in the planning and commission of the crime. And that's what is being accused. It's being accused that Lemon was involved in the plan and commission of this crime, and that he was an integral part of that, presumably, because they wouldn't have done it if they didn't have Lemon there covering it. That they required him as part of the plan. That is going to be the case that is made by the federal government. But it's pretty clear that Lemon was involved in some capacity. And I'm not going to prejudge this thing legally. But for people to claim that there is no shot at all, that the federal government has no case at all, that basically they're just arresting him for being a journalist on the scene, that is a stretch to me.
So again, he can't be like totally in favor of the media or whatever. That wouldn't be a popular base. And also, I love the little Freudian slip that there's no shot at all. That has a connotation to it. It's not, he fixed it after and said no case at all. No case at all is not a value judgment. No shot at all implies, well, let's try. Let's see if we can get him. It's not that he necessarily broke the law, but maybe we get a member of the media. Anyway, oh, by the way, I'll also throw this out. I saw this. James Fishback, the far-right Republican candidate for governor in Florida, said that Don Lemon is lucky that he's not getting executed in the public square.
Oh, come on, Jesus Christ. Okay, so this is authoritarian crap and everybody knows it here. Okay, let's do another example. So the right-wing media includes guys like Posobiec, and he pushed the Pizzagate conspiracy theory. And oh my God, they're eating children in the basement of a pizza parlor or whatever they're doing, or drinking their blood or wearing their skin as their mask. Whatever ludicrous, insane thing that they made up about Pizzagate. Well, some guy went in there and shot him up, right? Shot up the pizza chain involved. So you could argue that he instigated those people to go do that shooting, which is a far, far more serious crime. And he didn't just happen to be there and document it. He's the one who made it up. Oh, there's some terrible things happening in the basement of the pizza place. What's anybody gonna do? I mean, that is instigating it 2,000 times more than Don Lemon.
Yeah.
Did anyone on the left say that Posobiec should go to jail? I mean, maybe a couple of guys did, certainly no politician did, no big show did. No, nobody said he should be in prison over it. But now this, an infraction that is 1/1000th of it, if it's an infraction at all, and by the way, 2 judges have already said, no, this is garbage, not even close to a crime. And they're like, oh, no, let's find another judge and another judge, because we want to prosecute our opponents.
Yeah.
Keep it real. This is total authoritarianism crap. And by the way, done by a madman, which I'll come back to in a second.
Yeah, what about all the right wingers who are pushing for weeks for people to go on January 6th and wreck the place and overturn the results of the
should we
election?
go? Okay, so the next Democratic president,
Charlie Kirk, and all them.
So the next Democratic president, should we investigate every right-wing media guy that instigated something where another person, protesters, activists, whoever, broke the law? We'll have a very long list. And if that was the case, you know who would be the most against it? Me, because it's dumb. It takes away everyone's freedom. When you take away someone's freedom and you set a precedent, it doesn't just affect that person or their side. It affects everyone because it affects the Constitution and how it's interpreted. A super dangerous precedent should never be allowed to stand. And by the way, guys, what did we say before the election? That he was an authoritarian. And authoritarians try to lock up people who are their political enemies, whether they're in politics or media. And that is exactly what he has done.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
So for those of you going, oh yeah, there's no way he was gonna be authoritarian. Well,
yeah,
here he is. I mean, forget Nazi, forget even the word fascist, authoritarian. And people were like, no way. Are you still saying no way? Come on.
Yeah.
No, you don't mean that, even if you say it, I don't believe you. Even the 25% of Trump supporters, and I base that on polling, including one in this show, that are extreme right, that love everything. They're in the camp of invading Iceland because Trump accidentally said Iceland instead of Greenland. Yes, there's like a portion of Trump's base that you cannot talk to. If Trump tells you, we should murder Iceland, you murder Iceland, murder the ice. Wait, we like ice. Okay. So anyways, So those guys are unreachable and they love this, but I don't care about them. I care about everyone else. We cannot set precedents like this. Yeah. And guys, how do you not know that he's a madman? So John just told us a minute ago in the live show that Trump was threatening to arrest Obama today. So now the remarkable part of that story is it's just a throwaway in one of our stories. It's not a major headline. In fact, it's not a major headline anywhere. Now, why is that? Now, pre-Trump, if a current sitting president threatened to arrest a former president, it would have been by far the biggest headline, not of that day, but of his entire presidency, right? But we are used to Trump being insane. So we're like, oh yeah, he threatened to arrest Obama again. Let's move on, because he's not going to do that because he's a moron, or he might.
Maybe he will now.
Or he might, but it doesn't, we hope the courts will go, no moron. That's not how our laws work, okay? And he'll be further humiliated, but he wants it. He's insane and he wants it. He wants to arrest all of his opponents. He doesn't want any dissent. He wants everyone to give him standing ovation after standing ovation, because he's a tiny, weak little narcissist of a man. He's so incredibly weak and fragile. And we cannot have a madman like this willy-nilly constantly arresting people and threatening to do crazy things. And then on top of that, he's about to do the craziest thing of all. He's gonna drag us into a much bigger war with Iran. That is the problem with when you elect a president who is a madman, who is not mentally stable at all. And we have all the credibility in the world. I called out Biden when I thought he was senile years before anybody did. And so if you couldn't see that, I was amazed. If you can't see that Trump's literally nuts, I can't help you, because you're in that 25% of Trump voters who think that Iceland is the capital of ICE and Border Patrol, but we should invade it anyway.
I just wanted to, as we go to break, let you know, Edwin let me know that Don Lemon has been released after being charged. He's going to plead not guilty. He's not allowed to contact anyone involved in the case, basically, but he temporarily has his freedom. And so there is that. And with that said, we do have a lot to get to. The aforementioned Epstein files will be discussed after this.
Oh, what about the children? Give me a break.
All right, back on TYT. I'm gonna read a lot of these blind. Nerd Ferguson writes in on TYT.com. They arrested Don Lemon, released the Epstein files, and will bomb Iran just to distract us from the Melania movie.
Oh, what about the children? Give me a break.
Well, good news. They don't have to distract you for a minute. Some movie theaters are reporting 0 tickets sold. 0. That's amazing. Benjamin says, Jenk and John, woo, yeah. Subversive queer username Dragon, brother of Jenk, says, so that independent Senate candidate that Jenk interviewed yesterday seems strangely familiar. Then when he told the story about getting fired for messing with Charlton Heston, I realized that the candidate is the future Brett Ehrlich. You think, I see. You think Brett will look like him later. Okay, interesting. Dan Osborne, pretty well-known candidate, Brett, look it up. Bart Kyle says, I disagree. Brett Baer should be arrested for not having a neck. That's weird.
I think it's weird.
Yes, that's Bart, our sound guy. Dirge said, don't fall into the trap of thinking that these distractions are not things Trump wants to do. He wants to do them all. Sure. Yeah, oh, absolutely, both. It's a distraction and he wants to do it. Twofer. Salt of the Union says, a stretch for Ben is reaching the top shelf.
I had to think for a second.
Okay, Salt of the Union. TYT.com/ what was it? Rewards at TYT.com, I think.
Oh, yeah, rewards at TYT.com.
Yeah, Blue Apron $100 food card. Okay, gift card. I mean, you literally made both of us laugh out loud. We didn't know where it was going. Okay, that was about Shapiro, of course. Nemo 1870 Dragon says, deputize Don Lemon into ICE and he'll be able to get into churches regarding immigration stuff. Yeah, that's true. Uriah Heap says, Lemon is lucky to have money. This exercise in futility will cost him thousands. What do regular people do for legal help? That's a terrific point. I mean, they bankrupt people this way, and it costs a ton of money. So now we go to YouTube members. D. Mitchell says, Don Lemon is the perfect boogeyman for the administration. Don't fall for it, for sure. Carol Gosh says, this sucks. I like Don Lemon. It's just Bonnie's World says, distracting the distractions with other distractions. Very distracting. True. Caramel Diva says, they arrest journalists, but not pedos. That's the most true of all. We'll be back. All right, guys, back on TOT. Cenk and John with you guys. CD on Norse Dog Dad. Thanks for the gift of membership on YouTube. We appreciate it. And I want to tell you guys about something that might help you. It's called Plod AI. So we use it here. It just takes basically notes as you're doing a meeting, and it could be an interview too in our case, but mainly business meetings is super helpful. It's a small, discrete device that lets us stay fully present in the conversation, and that's actually really important. Taking notes in the middle of a business meeting is super distracting. And it's not just an audio recorder. After a meeting or interview, Plod can provide a full transcript, a clean summary, key points, and clear action items. If you're in business, that helps you so much. I can literally ask you, what were the main points in that interview or in that meeting? And it pulls the answers straight from the actual conversations. It saves hours every week because we're not rewriting notes, we're not re-listening, we're not second guessing what was said. We know it and it can be summarized. So plod.ai/TYT, that's plod.ai/TYT, check it out there. All right, John, what's next?
Okay, let's jump into the big story of the day, or at least what should be the big story of the day, although the regime is working overtime to try to make it anything else. Let's jump into this.
My team has certain communications with the White House. Let me just be clear, they had nothing to do with this review. They had no oversight over this review. They did not tell this department how to do our review, what to look for, what to redact, what to not redact. There's this mantra out there that, the Department of Justice is supposed to protect Donald J. Trump. And that's what we were telling. That's not true. That was never the case. We are always concerned about the victims. We did not protect President Trump. We didn't protect or not protect anybody.
Sure, Jen. Anyway, they would have you believe that this entire thing, the release of the new documents today, in which the DOJ released about 3 million additional documents, files, pictures, videos having to do with Jeffrey Epstein, and this entire endeavor that stretched for almost a year now had nothing to do with protecting Donald Trump, when that has obviously been the mission statement from the beginning. And so we got a bunch of documents. That's the good news. There is some good news here. There's also bad news. First of all, they didn't release all of the documents. They've redacted documents that they weren't supposed to. They were supposed to provide explanations for redactions that did exist, and they didn't do that. And perhaps the worst news, morally at least, is that some of the documents released include absolutely horrific allegations against Donald Trump. But interestingly, after people found them, the DOJ temporarily deleted those files, then perhaps realized that doesn't actually work on the internet. People had already downloaded them, and so they re-uploaded them. And we're gonna discuss, but Cenk, what are your 2 cents?
First of all, wait till you get a load of the allegations against Donald Trump. Are they really true with a 13-year-old? Oof. So then there's allegations against Bill Gates. And then that's not just about Bill Gates. That's about Jeffrey Epstein's MO. How does he work and why is he doing what he's doing? Let alone the revelations about Israel, of course. So there's a lot more to this. Let's give you all the facts and then figure out, are we ever going to get anyone who actually did it?
Yeah, and remember, Ghislaine Maxwell revealed earlier this week, or at least documents from her revealed, that there were other clients. There were other men, dozens of them, who got these sweetheart deals, but we're told there's no client list. In any event, we've got a list of more than a dozen horrific allegations. We're not gonna cover all of them, but they are available online if you want. They were included in emails that were sent by officials in the FBI's New York field office on the Child Exploitation and Human Trafficking Task Force. Now, bear in mind that these, in some cases, have been investigated by the FBI to varying levels, but all of them are claims that were made against him. They're not the original result of FBI reporting, and so we cannot say with any certainty whether they're actually true, and I doubt we will ever be able to because the DOJ is not actually investigating any of these claims with anything approaching a serious approach. But that said, they do contain graphic, disgusting descriptions of sexual assault, so bear that in mind. There was one complaint made by a friend of the alleged victim. In it, the president was accused of forcing a teenage girl to perform oral sex on him. The quote says, redacted reported an unidentified female friend who was forced to perform oral sex on President Trump approximately 35 years ago in New Jersey. The friend told Alexis that she was approximately 13 to 14 years old when this occurred, and the friend allegedly bit President Trump while performing oral sex. The friend was allegedly hit in the face after she laughed about biting President Trump. The friend said that she was also abused by Epstein. The 35 years ago would put this in the range of when they were, best friends and party buddies, doing what they're doing. In the response column of the document for this particular one, it says that an investigator was sent to Washington to conduct an interview. And I guess I'd love to know what you found out from the interview, but again, this is not a serious thing the DOJ is doing. They're not gonna explain any of this. Another complaint alleged that Trump hosted calendar girls parties at Mar-a-Lago that involved genital measurements for children who were brought by Jeffrey Epstein. This is obviously a different sort of genital inspection than Republicans are now advocating for in women's sports on a regular basis. This is something far more sinister and explicitly sexual. At this party allegedly were Elon Musk, Eric, Ivanka, and Donald Trump Jr., Alan Dershowitz supposedly as well, and the claimant claimed that we were taken in rooms, forced to give oral sex to Donald J. Trump, forced to allow them to penetrate us. I was 13 years old when Donald J. Trump raped me. Ghislaine Maxwell was also present. There's a lot here, Cenk. Claims of a sex trafficking ring at the Trump golf course in Rancho Palos Verdes between 1995 and 1996, saying that Ghislaine Maxwell was involved in that. There's a claim against the former host of Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, Robin Leach, having supposedly strangled a girl, and then violent threats made against the victims that they would be murdered if they ever told anyone about it. And that one was labeled not credible by the FBI, which is interesting because not all of the others were labeled not credible. So what are we supposed to do with this, Cenk?
Yeah, there's varying levels of credibility, and a lot of them they thought this is total junk, and they didn't bother to investigate it. But the one about Trump being with a 13-year-old, they did investigate, and that was in August of 25, just last year. So I don't know if that's an active investigation because Blanche said that they did redact some material or did not include some material of active investigations. Didn't know they had any active investigations because a couple months ago they said that there were no other clients.
Well, and remember that before that investigation, Pam Bondi said, remember she started this whole thing coming out and saying, we're done with this. There's nothing else to investigate. Evidently there was.
Yeah, but I want to be super clear. We don't know that Trump did that. We just know that someone accused them of that. So like if that was someone you like, just picture, I don't want to put out any names, right? You'd say, whoa, he didn't have his day in court. They didn't even vet that one person, let alone build a case, let alone bring it to a grand jury, let alone convict him, right? So we want to be super fair about that. It's just an allegation, obviously a deeply disturbing allegation. What's more disturbing is that there are tons and tons of allegations, and it's unclear how many of them were thoroughly investigated at all.
Yeah.
In the past, now, or has it just been accepted in the Justice Department? No, do not investigate. And why? There's of course all the theories, as we've gone through a million times, about powerful guys, but as you're gonna see a little bit later, there's also the issue of the intelligence agencies in Israel. So whenever those things are involved, it becomes a complete no-go zone. So I wanna move on to Elon Musk and Bill Gates, but again, even on them, huge grain of salt on what you're hearing here, because no one was convicted, nobody was brought to trial. These are people that are just saying this about them.
Exactly, yeah. Okay, so then why don't we move on to the next. Donald Trump was far from the only person that was mentioned in the Epstein files. The 3 million documents dropped today. We also have Bill Gates. There's a draft email in the documents that Epstein was apparently writing to himself back in July of 2013. And in it, he addressed Bill Gates, accusing him of recently disregarding their friendship or whatever twisted relationship they had. He also mentioned Gates allegedly asking him to delete some past communications. And when it's past communications with Jeffrey Epstein, the reason why he'd want them to be deleted is easy to speculate about. Here is from the draft email, this section. To add insult to the injury, you, them, implore me to please delete the emails regarding your STD, your request that I provide you antibiotics that you can surreptitiously give to Melinda, and the description of your penis. And so sometimes these emails are hard to understand or to follow from Jeffrey Epstein because he wrote like an absolute illiterate madman. I don't know entirely why one of the richest men in the world would need antibiotics to be provided by Jeffrey Epstein.
I do.
Okay, well, they're referencing something there. There was also a draft email that Epstein appeared to be writing on behalf of Gates' longtime science advisor, Boris Nikolic, about his intent to leave the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. This is from July of 2013. Epstein wrote in his voice, by the way, for this. During the past few weeks, I have been caught up in a severe marital dispute between Melinda and Bill. In my role as his right hand, I have been asked on multiple occasions and in hindsight, wrongly acquiesced into participating in things that have ranged from the morally inappropriate to the ethically unsound, and have been repeatedly asked to do other things that get near and potentially over the line into the illegal. From helping Bill to get drugs in order to deal with consequences of sex with Russian girls, to facilitating his illicit trysts with married women, to being asked to provide Adderall for bridge tournaments, I feel I owe it to my friends and future colleagues to admit a moral failure, to ask forgiveness, and to move on with my life. A spokesperson for Gates says these claims are absurd, they're all false, they're not based on anything. But I have a feeling I know where your mind goes when you see him drafting an email which seems like blackmail material against Bill Gates.
Exactly, this is not complicated at all. These are all drafted emails, not sent. These are obviously threats. If you don't do what we want, I could send this email to you and then you can't unsend it and it'll be on the record and you'll get caught on STDs, Russian girls, whatever he's threatening. Is it true? We don't know. But usually they threaten things that they think that the other person will be afraid of, right? Yeah. So now that doesn't mean you should assume that Bill Gates did these things. That's not the important part of this story. And you could judge Bill Gates on your own time, I don't care, right? So what I care about is, so it was a blackmail operation. Because look, the one he writes for Bill Gates is super damning and like, I could send it. The one he writes for his right-hand man, obviously they've got something on the right-hand man. And what they're saying is, if we want you to, you're gonna throw Bill Gates under the bus with this email. And if you don't, there will be consequences. So who is we? That's the question. And so, and based on Drop Site News's articles and emails that they've got from Epstein and Ehud Barak and others, the we is super duper clear. It's Israel. All Epstein talks about is Israel and helping Israel in every way. He has spies, Israeli spies at his place. He has the Israeli prime minister. He tries to get cyber weapons for Israel. He tries to get America to attack Syria and Iran for Israel. Israel. He is clearly Mossad. In fact, in one of the emails, he jokes about, now I'm not Mossad. Make sure you tell him I'm not Mossad, and then a wink emoji.
Well, he said he's not.
Okay.
I don't understand.
Come on. So what's amazing is the press will be like, Donald Trump, Bill Gates, Elon Musk. And you're like, bro, this is all about Israel. Don't say it. Why? Why can't I say it? Okay, so here, it gets way worse. So here is a portion of that is in the files, and this is amazing. It's in an FBI report. First, let's start with Dershowitz, then we'll go to Trump and Kushner. So they write in the report, CHS believed Dershowitz was co-opted by the Mossad and subscribed to their mission. Now, look, I'm not saying it. It's in the FBI report. I'm just reporting what's in the Epstein files, okay? And then they go to Trump. CHS advised that this was already, this was a real collusion story. Trump has been compromised by Israel, and Kushner is the real brains behind his organization and his presidency. So, did you see that headline yet? Maybe they'll come up later. Maybe it'll come up during the weekend. But if I know establishment media, they'll burr the hell out of it and go, this is just speculation. Hey, but you printed Trump being with a 13-year-old. That was speculation, you didn't mind that. You printed about Bill Gates' potential STDs, you didn't mind that. Elon Musk begging to go to Epstein Island over and over. But when it comes to Israel, yeah, okay, does that mean that Trump is definitely compromised by Israel? No, but those are interesting allegations. If we're talking about the other allegations, we should be talking about the allegations about why did this entire thing happen in the first place?
Yeah.
This was not an accident. This was not like, oh golly gee, here's the wild guy. Oh, Jeffrey Epstein. Oh yeah, he's the pedo that all the powerful people randomly know about and like and constantly go to, and he writes blackmail emails to them. And he brags about how he's constantly helping the Israelis with their spies and their ex-presidents. And we can't put 2 and 2 together? No, I put it together, it's 4. So mainstream media can tell you it's 5 or 0, but they're giant liars. Epstein was clearly part of Israel's operations here, and we're trying to blackmail the most powerful people in the country. So wake up, America. It's super obvious, and Israel is not an ally. They've been using and abusing us for all of these years.
Yeah, weird, like I buy what you say, but weirdly I come out of this feeling a little bit bad for them because they invest all of this time and effort into trying to blackmail Donald Trump, but they don't get that he's such a morally upright man that he wouldn't do anything that he could be blackmailed for. He partied for decades with Epstein and he probably didn't do anything.
Oh, no.
Sinful, cheating,
he's just
violent.
too moral.
Definitely, but it's weird. I'm being sarcastic. There's like 50 million people who believe that. Absolutely insane. That said, I do think that we're gonna have a lot to talk about on the other side. So why don't we take our last break?
All right.
They knew and they let it happen.
TYT here, Cenk and John. Speaking of John, John's show, of course, Damage Report is on at 1 p.m. Eastern every single day, Monday through Friday. Make sure you're checking it out. So while you're checking it out, Shop TYT has limited TDR hats. Check those out as well, shoptyt.com. They only made 70 of them, so they're gonna sell out at some point, and I'm gonna tell you, you should have panicked. I told you, so check that out. Check out our Substack where we're beginning to kill it. I appreciate it. And there it is, tyt.com/Substack, of course. Yes, I was on Tucker Carlson's show that came out today. That's a hell of an interview, but we're going to talk about it later in the program. You'll see some portions of the interview, and then I encourage you to check that out. Let's go back to our members. Jenks Left Tricep Fury says, pretty detailed accusation should be at least looked into instead of dismissed outright. Lou B says, the 13-year-old girl who bit Trump and then laughed is my new hero. Jack Callahan, so the words of the victims doesn't matter. No, for all of you guys, they should be checking that out to no end. All I'm first, if you, like, I'm not sure exactly what you guys are referring to, but I'm saying all of that should be thoroughly investigated. We just can't convict a guy based on one person's accusation, and that doesn't matter what part of the political spectrum you're in. Boop says Cenk has no fear. Well, thank you. We'll see how that turns out for me. Art Guy says things look awful right now, but that's only because we're finally seeing things that were going on in secret for decades. Now we know we just need effective leadership to fix all this. Art Guy, I couldn't agree more with you. I'm actually weirdly optimistic. John and I were talking about it off air. For exactly what the reason you're saying. It's not because like I'm like, oh, these things are going well. No, things are going terribly. But at least now people are beginning to see why for the first time in their lives. And that's a huge part of fixing it. Now on Super Chat, Konstantin Kavir says, started watching Cenk on Tucker Carlson. Those are great videos to share because you explain your views to an audience that isn't already familiar with you, and that forces you to say things in a more self-contained way. Thank you, Konstantin. Everybody check it out if you can. James Kelly writes in, could this also be a cover-up for Fulton, Georgia FBI raid as well? Don't know what is worse this week. We're going to talk about that as well.
That's true.
But Trump does so many bad things. He has to do distractions of really bad things to cover up the other bad things. So it's a never-ending cycle. Kenyatta Gaines says, notice how in all this drama, Trump is coming up to distract people. Everyday Americans are still struggling to make ends meet. Hashtag MAGA is cooked. Yeah, doing nothing for the economy. And he's 20 points underwater in the economy. On TYT, Cenk and John with you guys. And one of our YouTube members wrote in this great comment. Dove the Dove said, love my plot. I used it to summarize my daily TYT in case I fall into a nap. Hey, how dare you? You can't fall into a nap while while watching the Young Turks. Anyways, seriously, I thank you for that endorsement. Plod.ai/TYT is the way to go. Plod.ai/TYT. Okay, let's do the next story.
When Donald Trump promises you something, he will deliver. To the Iranian people, President Trump has your back. Help will be on the way. I'm not going to say any more.
We said, protest, we're coming to the rescue. Well, that's what we Americans do when we can. And the president, I believe in all my heart, is going to keep his word because that's what he does.
Yeah, it's not about his cold, dark heart. They already know. That's Israel First coming out saying we're going to bomb Iran, and it looks like that is what they're going to do maybe as early as this weekend. Dropsite News has some news on that. But first, let me show you all the cucks of Israel. Ted Cruz said we should be arming the protesters in Iran now for the Iranian people to overthrow the Ayatollah, a tyrant who routinely chants death to America would make America much, much safer. What a joke. Bombing Iran is somehow magically going to make America safer? No, this war is 100% for Israel. The idea that Lindsey Graham and Mark Levin and Ted Cruz care about Muslim protesters in the streets. There was tons of Muslim protesters against Israel in Gaza and the West Bank, and you kind of murdered them. Yeah. And you made us pay for murdering them. So they're such obvious liars. He doubled down to ABC News correspondent Selena Wang, Ted Cruz did. Senator Cruz tells me the US should arm Iranian protesters right now. If the protesters had the ability to fight back, I think it would change the outcome significantly. He said in the next 6 months, we could see the regime fall in Iran, in Venezuela, and in Cuba. So the neocons are celebrating, yes, Donald Trump, the warmonger, neocon, just like he promised you on the campaign trail, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I told you he was full of crap. So Mark Levin, meanwhile, used a tactic that seems specifically to get Trump's attention, okay? Let's watch.
Iran has interests far beyond its borders, and we are enemy number one. They've tried to assassinate our president 2 or 3 times, and they've threatened to kill our president in the last 3 weeks 5 times. Does that tick anybody off? Does that tick us off? It ticks me off. No regime should be able to threaten our president and still exist. The idea that if they kill our president, we will wipe them off the map, excuse me, they don't get to kill our president. That regime needs to be wiped off the map now. That's right, I said it. So let's start right there.
All right, so John, you want to weigh in on that one?
They don't get to kill our president. We're gonna kill all of them. Like
we get to kill their president.
It seems like we just took out Maduro. Like it kind of seems like that's the flavor of the day, Mark Levin. Why are you freaking out so much?
So, and by the way, he loved when they killed the leader of Hezbollah, they killed the leader of Hamas, they deposed the leader of Syria. There's nothing that Mark Levin likes more than murdering the leaders of other countries and organizations, as long as you're doing for Israel. And in fact, he says it in this case. We're gonna wipe them off the map, murder them all. I'm worried about the protesters and their lives. Oh, are you, Mark? Are you? And he's like, oh, we would never threaten the president. Today we found out in the Epstein files that they're saying that Trump was co-opted by Israel. Now that doesn't mean that it's true, it's just an allegation in the files. But no, Israel would never threaten a president. By the way, Israel also threatened Bill Clinton. Apparently they knew about the Monica, this is a well-known fact now, public fact. They knew about the Monica Lewinsky affair before it was public, and they threatened Clinton with it. That is amazing. I mean, by the way, that is a remarkable story.
That's what allies do.
Yeah. Imagine Canada's like, oh, we got Clinton. Okay, let's go. We're taking North Dakota, okay, or whatever they want. But the press is like, I don't see it. I don't see anything. I don't see Israel at all. I can't see Israel. Where's Israel, right? So anyway, so they're all agitating towards war. And by the way, that whole thing of Iran trying to kill Trump, I always thought that was the most absurd, ludicrous thing I'd ever heard. There's these 2 random white guys having nothing to do with Iran. They just keep saying, oh, it was Iran, and never have any evidence. I found out recently that Israel might be using Iranian agitators here to try to cause chaos and then blame it on Iran. So like,
sure.
So Mark Levin and the Israel First might know something about Iranians here, but not on the side you think they're on, okay? And so that is a very weird, disturbing thing to talk about. Hey, there's Iranian assassins in the country. Whose side are they on? Like that's insane. There's no. All right. Anyways, I don't want to get sidetracked in that because we now have. I'll get back to John Bolton. I'll get back to how much these guys work for Israel, but pretty clear indication from Drop Site News that the bombing might happen as early as this weekend, which to me makes sense. I'll tell you why in a second, but first, they're reporting. Senior US military officials have informed the leadership of a key US ally in the Middle East that the President Donald Trump could authorize a US attack on Iran this weekend. Multiple sources have confirmed to Drop Site News strikes could commence as early as Sunday. The ally was informed if the US decides to move forward. And here's what I'm telling you, they are going to move forward. Now, why do I say that so confidently? Number one, we've moved an entire armada, as Trump refers to it, into the area. We don't normally do that for no reason. The last time we did it was Venezuela, and we saw what happened there. And so number two, we are not currently in negotiations with Iran. So Trump is saying, well, if they don't give us what we want in the negotiations, we're gonna bomb them. But we're not in negotiations with them. So that means we're definitely gonna bomb them. And so Lindsey Graham is saying, oh, help is coming soon, wink, is not subtle. He's just saying, I know already, we're gonna attack Iran.
Yeah.
So I've got more, but John, what do you think?
Yeah, I only really have 2 points I want to add because I've been talking about this for so long because I've been expecting this to begin. One, when he's like, Donald Trump cares about the protesters there. Donald Trump in an interview said that if Iran assassinated him, there are orders to the military to destroy the entire country, which would presumably include all of those innocent protesters. So I don't actually believe that. And my prediction is a wild prediction. I don't think it's gonna start on Sunday. I think it's gonna start before then, because one of the patterns that I've noticed that I know a lot of people have is that the Trump administration is clearly gaming the prediction markets to personally profit off of everything that happens in the news. And so if they know it's gonna happen on Friday night or Saturday night, then they get in their bets, and what do they need to do? They need to pump it up, make sure that they're the ones that win. So you leak this story that it's happening on Sunday. Lots of people invest money into it on the wrong day, and then your bet pays off even more. They've been doing it on all sorts of stuff. Again, don't bet your money based on anything I say, but my prediction would be that it happens before Sunday.
Okay, so why do I say Lindsey Graham and Ted Cruz speak for Israel? Number one, they say it all the time. Ted Cruz says that he literally went into the Senate to serve Israel, which is an outrageous thing to say, and also a bizarre thing to say. Imagine if the senator from Texas was like, I went into the Senate to serve Paraguay. You'd be like, why? What a weird thing to do, right? So, okay, let's show you AIPAC tracker, Lindsey Graham, $1 million, but these are the bare minimum numbers. It doesn't count the super PACs where most of the money goes. Ted Cruz, $1.8 million, really 1.9. And again, that's a drop in the bucket for what they really want. So then, of course, it's not just politicians, it's the media. They're like, rah, war. Wait, now, wait a minute, why do I say that? Are they really saying it? Well, Politico had an interesting article today about polling of Trump's voters, of the country, but also of Trump voters in regards to war. And I saw the polling, and it looks pretty bad for Trump. The headline was, Trump's base wants to go to war, loves war. I'm like, what? That's not what the polling says at all, at all. And throughout the entire article, they're like, you see, this proves it, this proves it. Now, let me give you the numbers. They say, about 50% of Trump voters backed military intervention in Iran, the most of any foreign target. That number rose to 61% of respondents who described themselves as MAGA Republican Trump supporters. Now, wait a minute, there's two ways to look at that, John. So you could say, oh wow, even though he ran as an anti-war guy, 50% of his voters still say, go to war with Iran. I mean, that's a hypocrisy and an interesting point, no problem with pointing that out. The other way to look at it is, holy cow, half of Trump's voters go, even though I voted for Trump, I totally disagree with him on going to war with Iran. Sure. That is a giant number.
And they're being propagandized to support it.
Yeah.
And still, yeah, I think both views are totally legitimate.
Yeah, and so if you wrote a nuanced article and saying both of those things, or if you said, hey, wow, half of Trump's voters say Trump is wrong about attacking Iran, that's a good headline, that's a big headline. The entire article on Politico is about rah, MAGA wants this war so bad. That's not what the numbers say at all. And so they want it so bad as 95%, 90%, 85%. Yeah. Not half of your own voters saying no, not the whole country, your own voters. So, and then look at how they frame things. 65% of Trump voters support the US taking military action against at least one of several potential target countries, including Iran, Greenland, Cuba, Colombia, China, and Mexico. And so now they piled all those up together. They're like, oh, they really, if you look at the numbers, they don't want war. So why don't we add them all together so we can do the headline of, oh, Republicans want war, the voters want war. No, they don't, no, they don't. So now of the ones that do want it, John, it is absolutely absurd. I'll get to that in a second. But if you're tired of our country serving Israel, operationconsequences.com, okay? So that's our URL where we're just asking you guys, make a pledge. You wanna make it in your mind and not sign it, or you wanna sign someone else's pledge, I don't care. But the most important thing is, if they give $1 more to Israel going forward, just vote against them in your own primary, Republican or Democrat, it doesn't matter. Vote against them. Why are we funding these insane wars and this genocide? We would never do it for any other country, and everyone knows it. So it's mental, and if you take money from the Israeli lobby, obviously you're raising your hand and saying, I am representing them and not you. So, John, what you think they're going to war on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was going to be like a week or two ago. I don't know. Again, the prediction markets are the only thing that influences what they're doing, but these guys love to personally profit off the stuff that Donald Trump is doing. And yeah, we've been saying the same thing. They did not send this massive armada and aircraft carriers and all that to do nothing. Remember, they did the same buildup outside of Venezuela, and then they ended up using it because, of course, they're going to. And in terms of the like, we're gonna worry about negotiations or whatever. Remember, the last time Donald Trump bombed Iran, he said like 2 days before, I'm giving them 2 weeks and then I'll figure it out. And he bombed them instantly because he loves to put out false information so that he can feel like he surprised him or whatever. I feel like this leak is very intentional, either to manipulate the Iranians or the prediction markets, or more likely both.
Yeah, I can't help but keep going because I want to also tell you about the Democrats and how our government, unfortunately, is totally owned by Israel in every way. But before I do that, I promise this to you, and it is remarkable. About 25% of Trump's voters, not the country, just 25% of Trump's voters will do anything Trump wants. It's amazing. But the good news is, as you can see, 50% draw the line on attacking Iran, which I think is actually pretty encouraging. There's a 25% that are kind of in the middle, and 25% go, you want to attack my mom, I'm in, okay? So if you say that's an exaggeration, get a load of this. So 50% on Iran, 32% of Trump voters want to attack Mexico. Mexico comes in number 2, even though we're not really talking about attacking Mexico, but they're like, attack them anyway, okay? 30% say Colombia, 28% say Cuba, 27% say Nigeria. Okay, now we are actually bombing Nigeria.
White genocide.
Okay, or whatever, but like if you ask them, that 27%, who in Nigeria should we be bombing? There's not one person that'll know the right answer, okay? But okay, I'm giving all that to them because Trump has bombed those countries or has talked about bombing those countries. What I'm talking about is afterwards. 25% say we should bomb China and start World War III with nukes. Okay, so that's insane. But wait, it gets way worse. 24% say invade Taiwan.
Wait, what?
What?
That's an option?
Taiwan's our ally. Why would we invade Taiwan? We're trying to protect Taiwan from China invading. But they're like, yeah, screw it, just take it anyway.
Maybe it's the Greenland thing again, where he's like, they can't protect themselves, so we need to invade Taiwan so we can protect Taiwan.
22% say Panama. Trump didn't say anything about Panama. They're like, well, I don't know, it's in Latin America, it's got a canal, let's take it back. 22%.
Yeah, he said that quite a bit, yeah, that's true.
Greenland, 21%. But by the way, Greenland, even despite all this, at almost at the bottom, but there's one country that's also on the list.
Canada.
No, Iceland at 16%. And that's the funniest of all, because Trump accidentally said Iceland 4 times when he meant Greenland. And 16% of his base went, good enough, let's attack Iceland. On a verbal slip up. Okay, that is amazing. So there's about 25% of Trump's base that is totally immovable. But last thing is go back to the Democrats. A new report out, damning from Reuters. US Agency for International Development staffers in early 2024 drafted a warning to senior officials in the Joe Biden administration. Northern Gaza had turned into an apocalyptic wasteland with dire shortages of food and medical aid. The internal cable described the scene observed by the United Nations staff who visited the area on a humanitarian fact-finding mission in January and February. This is what they said. The staff reported seeing a human femur and other bones on the roads, dead bodies abandoned in cars, and catastrophic human needs, particularly for food and safe drinking water. So what happened? They obviously reported that Biden took action, right? Nope. Quote, but the US ambassador to Jerusalem, Jack Lew, and his deputy Stephanie Hallett blocked the cable from wider distribution within the United States government because they believed it lacked balance, according to interviews with former officials and documents seen by Reuters. So I could go on, but it's clear. Jack Lew made a decision, I'm gonna protect Israel. I'm not going to be honest with my superiors in the American government. I'm gonna hide reality from them. What balance do you need on, I saw bones on the side of the road, I saw dead people in cars and it's an apocalyptic scene, and there's what balance do you need on that? And by the way, where was your balance? You didn't report any of it.
Yeah.
You just hid it. Because Jack Lew and Stephanie Hallett don't work for America, they work for Israel. And look, that he was our ambassador to Israel. Mike Huckabee's our current ambassador. And no matter whether you have a Democratic administration or a Republican administration, first of all, our embassy in Israel is a nest of vipers who almost all work for Israel and not for America. And it's including Mark Levin's son-in-law or whatever he is, that had Huckabee meet with Jonathan Pollard, a traitor to America, without informing the president, the CIA, etc. So I'm so sick of our government, so many agents and assets inside our government that work for a foreign government. And Jack Lew, I challenge you, go ahead. Explain to us why you buried that news story on behalf of Israel. Don't tell me it was on behalf of America, because you hid it from Americans. But to be fair to Jack Lew, it wouldn't have mattered. Joe Biden is an Israeli asset. So if he told them, hey, they're murdering people, there's bones all over the ground, Joe Biden would be like, oh, do they need more money? And he would have sent them even more money, because he knew that there was a genocide going on, and he sent Israel $21.7 billion to murder more Palestinians. So it doesn't matter if you voted for Joe Biden or Donald Trump, Democrat or Republican, Israel owns this place. So that's the stone cold reality. Almost no one in America wants to go to war with Iran. Now notice the Politico story said 50% of Trump voters, they didn't say the overall number, because the overall number for the whole country is way, way lower.
Yeah.
So a minuscule percentage of Trump's base, a minuscule percentage of the overall country, propagandized 100%, I guess, they tell me it's gonna be easy, right? The rest of the country doesn't want it, and we're gonna go to war anyway. And we're gonna do it for Israel that has been asking for it for 20 years. I came to America, I didn't realize I came to a province of Israel where we would all be occupied by this tiny, ridiculous, oppressive country. John, last word.
No, I'm super worried about what's going to happen this weekend. I'm super worried about what's going to happen coming out of it. I mean, I know what's not going to come out of it is the democracy that Iranians deserve that will not be allowed, no matter what comes out. First of all, it's entirely possible that the protesters will still be absolutely slaughtered by the Iranians. Maybe some of them will be slaughtered by Trump's bombs when he drops them. But no matter what happens, even if they topple the regime, Israel, America is not going to allow them to do self-determination. That much should be clear.
And I'll guarantee you this.
The Board of Peace is going to take it over. That's what's going to happen.
I'll guarantee you this time it will not be clean and easy. Last time was just a bombing. I mean, I know that Trump thinks there's never any cost. But you do enough of these missions and there's gonna be a cost. At some point, somebody's gonna take out a plane, somebody's gonna take out a ship. And when they do, they're gonna come back and go, that's it, we gotta put boots on the ground and we gotta go to war forever and ever and ever for Israel, okay?
There's a case to be made that Trump wants that.
Of course he wants that. So when that happens, remember, if you're part of that small part of the country, that 50% of Trump's voters that are still being deluded about who runs this country and making you the anti-war candidate go to war, and the most disastrous war you'll ever see, remember who lied to you and remember who made America go into this war.
Yeah.
Because those are not your allies, those are your enemies. Young Turks. There's one reason why healthcare is so messed up in this country, and that's because of our money in politics situation. Because those industries that are deeply corrupt can just simply purchase all of Congress. And then the problem never gets fixed because of that bribery. Mike.
Yeah, I mean, it's greed and it's the greed of politicians, right? I mean, so everything they do is dictated by the donors and the money. I mean, I shouldn't say that, not everything. A lot of what they do is, and I do think that there are people who do things in spite of the fact that they have to raise money and often don't get that money and often don't win because they don't, but are in there fighting for ideals that they believe in. Bernie Sanders is certainly an example of someone like that.
I'm back to gaslighting. Did you and I talk about gaslighting on Old School?
Probably.
That boss gaslit all his female employees. People who manipulate others like that make you feel like you're the weirdo. Why won't you punch yourself in the face? What is wrong with you? And you're like, oh my God, I feel so bad. God, why didn't I just punch myself in the face and poke my eye out? I'm 47 and I just figured it out like earlier this year.
You figured out somebody was doing it to you, or that you were
that it was that it would have been happening my whole life and I didn't realize it.
Right.
You want to know the 3 shows that I'm watching lately? Shogun, Anjin-san. Those guys are badasses. Then you go to the Duttons, Yellowstone. Now they don't always do it right, but they are badasses. But the 3rd show has the biggest badasses of all, the Young Turks. Live every weekend. Sick that I was so good. God damn it. Okay, live. Weekdays at 6 o'clock Eastern. That's what I meant. Anjin-san.
How do you know if you're a populist? Easy. Do you work for the donor class? You don't? Great, you're a populist. Okay, so the establishment takes money from the donors and serves the donors. A mainstream media takes money from advertisers, and they are giant corporations themselves, and they work for themselves, and they work for the powerful. If you care about the average person, and you want the average person to have better health care, better wages, a better life, and you hate corruption, congrats, you're a populist.
All right, Amazon Prime members, here's how you can subscribe for free on Twitch. Start by linking your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, and then click that little subscribe or resubscribe button below the stream on Twitch. Scroll down and select the subscribe free with Prime button, and then you're finished. Close out immediately and share your little subscription alert with the chat. Send a cute message along with it, and bathe in the sweet, twitchy, Bezos-funded love. Hashtag Bezos Bucks.
A terrible friend.
Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
All right, back on the Young Turks, Cenk Uygur, Yasmin Aliyah Khan with you. Yasmin is also the host of Modern Context podcast, and you can see her on Rebel Headquarters. That is on YouTube and everywhere else that you can see the TYT network. All right, Yas, lots to get to, including a little bit of an interesting conversation I had with Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, a very interesting story to start off the second hour, so let's get right into it.
Now, in the last 2 weeks, Trump gave another $8.6 billion, totally unaccounted. Where's that $8.6 billion coming from? Did anybody ever vote for that $8.6 billion? And then unabated, he gave another $3.3 billion. Where is this money coming from? Is anybody voting on this? What is going on?
Well, it's debt. These are IOUs to countries that are buying our treasuries.
Exactly.
All right, so that was Cenk. And Cenk, you just sat down with Tucker Carlson for nearly a 2.5-hour interview, which is very impressive, and kudos to you for getting through that. Let's give you, what are your 2 cents before we get to some of the clips?
Yeah, so what I want people to look out for in this interview, and we're gonna show you some of the clips right now, is, one is the issue of American sovereignty in Israel and what we're doing with it. The other is that the whole idea of red versus blue, Republican versus Democrat, is a mirage, is an illusion to get us to fight each other so we don't focus on the powerful people in this country who actually rule us. So I want you to pay attention to all that. And at the end, we're gonna show you, we're gonna share with you guys an analogy that I did that Tucker really loved. It's a little bit controversial, but you'll see that at the end.
Yeah, it is a fun analogy, I will say. But before we get to your analogy, here is a clip of you, Cenk, calling out Trump's deference to his pro-Israel donors.
One of the things they wanted was taxes and other interests and defeat the unions and their casinos and all the things, their wish list. But the main thing they wanted was for Israel. And Trump says it all the time. He doesn't hide it at all. He said it in the Knesset. Yeah, he said, "Look, you guys give me money, and Sheldon wanted me to move our embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, so I moved it for him." Like, you're not supposed to say that, okay?
That's what I love about Trump. I love it when he just says it.
Yeah, so he's like, and then so they wanted this, and I gave him the Golan Heights. I said, go ahead, take it, right? And whatever Israel asked, and he said, Sheldon came in here in my first term more than any other person. And he said, to be fair, he gave the most, right? So if you give that much money, you get access and you get American policy. So now Miriam's up there going, maybe you should run for a third term and I'll give him $250 million. She said that on air next to Trump. So that is them rubbing it in our face.
All right, well then Cenk and Tucker Carlson were also critical of Trump's strikes on Iran and Venezuela. So let's take a look at that.
I was having lunch with Trump and he's like, oh, come to the oil meeting. And like, I don't, it's not my world. So I was like, okay. So I go up there and all these heads of the big oil companies, including Exxon, they didn't seem too enthusiastic about it, but we'll see. And I just happened to be sitting in the room totally by accident. I mean, literally by accident, because he's asked me to come. And he's telling him, he's like, no. This is for our country and you'll get a cut that I will decide. I can just tell you what I saw.
So that's not how it should work, right? Because when you say to a different country, we're going to come and we're going to take your natural resources and we're just going to take a certain amount for us, period. Sad day for you. What'll happen is an insurgency. When you go and you attack other countries, our military is amazing. Best in the world, best that's ever been created, right?
Yep.
So that was an amazing mission that they did in Venezuela and an amazing one they did in Iran. But you do 3 or 4 of those and you're going to get burned because it's just a matter of chances.
I think that's right.
And in case you're wondering why Cenk went on the Tucker Carlson show, and I'm sure many of you are wondering exactly that, here's your answer. He tells you.
I also want to break down the barriers of Republicans versus Democrats, right wing versus left wing. I think that it's kind of used to divide us. And I think that the powerful already have an incredible elite team. They're very, very organized and they do it through donations to the politicians, et cetera.
Yes.
But the American people are not organized. We have built 2 teams, but those 2 teams, the Republicans and the Democrats, have been trained to fight each other instead of fighting up, right?
Exactly.
And so when you split the population that way, you take away all of their energy because you have them use their energy against one another rather than against you. It's actually brilliant.
It's how the British ruled India.
Exactly, right?
Yes.
And it's done on a meta level in every way. Also, by the way, on a global level, Christians versus Muslims. 2 billion here, 2 billion there. Make sure you guys are fighting one another. And hey, look at that. We've used up all your energy fighting one another and not looking up.
I've noticed, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great last point that you made there, Cenk. A lot of great points. And I encourage everyone to check out the rest of the interview. Again, nearly 2.5 hours long. So, make some tea and buckle in for a little bit. But no, I agree. I think you do get a lot of flack sometimes, Cenk, whenever you go on these other programs, more right-leaning programs. But one of the things that we always complain about here on networks like this one is that we are often just preaching to the choir, and wouldn't it be great if we could get our message out to the greater populace? And this is one of the ways that we can do exactly that. So what's your feedback on your chat with Tucker?
Yeah, so there's 2 different groups of people that'll attack us. It's not that important. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but one has already happened. The Laura Loomer attacked the interview. How dare they? They should bow their heads to Israel. And Tucker Carlson's betraying the president by telling the story about Venezuela that we just showed you, and Tucker's betraying everyone by talking to someone on the left. Please stay divided. Israel wants you to stay divided, so it's much easier to conquer you. So that's totally to be expected.
My guess is later some on the left, a small group will find like 13 seconds here or 5 seconds there and try to make a big deal out of it. Although I don't know which 13 seconds they're gonna find. Because what I want you to do is watch the whole thing and make up your own mind. Don't listen to the Laura Loomers of the right or the left. And so we'll put the link in the description box. But guys, in terms of what was the content of it, if you're not gonna watch it, I'll summarize it for you. It was anti-war, don't fund Israel, and get money out of politics. Oh, right, all three of those are issues that we on the left have been pushing for the last 20 years. So we can get back into the old debates of should we take yes for an answer? And it is, to me, it's always remarkable that a significant percentage of the left, or a small percentage, I don't know what the percentage is, of the left says, no, don't take yes for an answer. No, if someone agrees with your position, you should hate them for it. I just don't get it. I don't get it at all, okay? But that's okay, that's for another day. But what is much more important, Yaz, is the reaction so far that it's been getting about, just about almost everyone outside of the real extremes is like, yeah, that. Get money out of politics, stop the wars, represent America and not a different country. These are not controversial positions. The only reason why we don't realize that 90% of the country agrees on these things is because the media creates that illusion of, oh, you have to hate each other, you have to fight. And yes, you disagree on some things, and those are the only things you should focus on. Do not ever focus on the things you agree on, because that is where the American people are directly opposed to the elites who run this country.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I think is interesting about what's happening right now in this country is we're getting so much footage of things that are happening, not just in, between Israel and Gaza, but also right here in our own country. We're seeing things for ourselves as they're playing out in these places. And then we're hearing the narrative that's coming from the administration, and it's directly contradicting that. So what's uniquely happening now, which is something that hasn't happened to this extent, I think, in the last 10 years, is that people they really are starting to kind of be like, this doesn't make sense to me anymore, right? And what is happening is we're getting people on the right actually start to come around, not to the Democrats, not to the liberals, but to our side of that left side, right? They're becoming more aware of democratic socialists and leftists in general, and not just they're aware of us and we're terrible and we're like the worst people in America or whatever. They're actually listening to the things that we are saying and have been saying for a really long time, and realizing that if you want to talk about America first, we have been talking about this country for a long time, not just the country as an entity, but its people for a long time. That's our whole platform, right? That's why we are leftists, because we want to help the people of this country. And we don't want to be mean to people from other countries either. And so what's happening now, and I've seen it specifically, when I say recently, I mean like within the last week or so, there has been, I think, a notable shift in people being a little bit more open-minded to messages from people like you. So, you going on Tucker Carlson right now, I think was really great timing.
Yeah, and so look, it's in the zeitgeist. So I interviewed Dan Osborne, the independent running for the Senate seat in Nebraska, just yesterday on the Revolution. We do Young Turks every day, 6 to 8 o'clock Eastern on YouTube, and everywhere else, almost every platform. And then at 8 o'clock, I do this Revolution where I try to bring the country together to crowdsource a revolution to get our government back, and of course a peaceful, nonviolent one. And Osborne was basically the same thing, saying the same thing we're all saying, which is, yeah, this is all distractions. No one's actually looking out for the average American. And when he talks to real people in Nebraska, a lot of them are right wing, some are left wing. And he's saying that, I said, look, I think that we might even agree on 70% of the issues if we could just get past the media and their illusions, which is gonna lead to the analogy I used at the end there. But he said, no, I don't think it's 70%. Based on my experience campaigning all over Nebraska, I think we actually agree on 90% of the issues. And so, yes, there's the spectacular ones we disagree on, But nobody that's a real person wants money in politics. Nobody wants corruption. Nobody wants higher drug prices that we can't negotiate. Nobody wants higher housing prices, lower wages. They have to divide you. Otherwise, you would be up in arms. You would be so angry at what the elites are doing to you and what the donor class is doing to you. That's why they've got to divide you. And the fact that we're all looking to get past that is great. And look, I mean, in the old days, if I went to talk to Tucker Carlson when he was on Fox News, or I talked to another prominent right winger 2 years ago, I wouldn't have gotten any of this reaction. We would have had a huge fight. They would have defended Trump 24/7, the entire Republican Party. I mean, I told a story about how Jonathan Pollard, the biggest traitor to America, stole our secrets, gave them to Israel. Obama basically starts the pardon process for him, lets him out. Trump then says he can leave the country, which is another outrage, and can go to Israel. He gets flown to Israel on Miriam and Sheldon Adelson's private jet. Why did they have a traitor celebrated in that way? And that's the same people that are Trump's top donors. I got to say that on Tucker Carlson's show. And if you look at the comments, and some of you have written in about that, some of our members, the comments overwhelmingly agree. So we now have the largest right-wing show and its supporters going, you guys are right about Israel, including controlling Trump. That is enormous. That's amazing. So I hope we can take this opportunity to unite on those critical issues. So, and in fact, one of the things I wanted to do was to unite on ending the funding of Israel. So that leads us to the next clip. So let's take that one.
I started a site, notanother.com. Okay, notanother.com.
Is that a hate site?
They will call it that. So what we're saying is, look, two things. One is, number one, if a congressperson takes money from Israel, vote against them. So what are the consequences? Not violent, not hatred, not anything. Just if you vote with Israel to give them another $1, we're going to vote against you. And you know what? You don't have to cross party lines. That's what primaries are for.
Yeah.
So if you're a Republican, you never have to vote for a Democrat. If you're a Democrat, you never have to vote for a Republican. Go into the primaries, and we're going to make two lists. One is, are you taking money from Israel? And the second thing we're saying is, did you give money to Israel? Or did you take money from Israel? And did you give money to Israel? So forget the past, because they all gave money in the past, okay? We're fair, clean slate. But going forward, you vote one more time for another $1 to Israel, and you're never going to get our vote, ever.
Yeah, so there's two ways you can get there, notanother.com or operationconsequences.com. And as I explained there, the consequences are purely political. I mean, that's exactly what they're supposed to be in a democracy. And if you just have the left doing it, it's not enough. You need the left and the right doing it. And the good news is, don't worry, you don't have to cross any tribal lines, right? It's designed to unite the country without you having to compromise any of your principles. What do you think, Yaz? Yaz, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Yeah, something that I think the left has understood for a long time, more than other political groups in this country even, is that we don't celebrate the celebrity of politicians the way that other people do. For, like on the most obvious instance of that is on the right, people idolize Trump and they see him as a celebrity because he is a celebrity president. But also with the liberals, with the Democrats, right? They have a lot of love for their politicians that they choose to endorse. And so whenever it comes out that one of these politicians has done something that, otherwise they wouldn't like, it's very hard for them to separate that person from their love that they have for that person, right? So if they find out that somebody that they really like is taking money from AIPAC, it would be harder for them than somebody on the further left to be like, I'm just not gonna support you anymore. But I do think that we are starting to see people look at things and say, look, if you support everything that's going on in Gaza right now, there's no way I can support you politically, right? We need to reframe these politicians, not as celebrities, not as people that we're supposed to idolize, but as people who work for us, because that is exactly who they are. We elect them into political position. If they do a job that we are happy with, then we will reelect them. And if not, then get rid of them. primary them, get somebody else in these positions, and they need to understand that we are more than willing to do that, right? Because they work for us.
Yep. And here's the last clip. It's that analogy we promised you at the end. Let's watch.
Yeah, gaslighting is almost an industrial version of torture. It's like a movie where they tell you, hey, you know what? Your wife came in with this baby that she found, and it's a victim, and you guys are going to adopt it. And she's so golden-hearted, and she brought the kid home. And you go, okay, great, let me see the kid. And a guy walks in and goes, here, first I got to give you some glasses. Okay. And he gives you glasses and you put them on and you go, oh my God, what a cute kid.
I have no idea where this analogy is going, but I love it.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm totally wrapped up in it. Okay.
Yeah. So, and your wife is nursing the kid and feeding it, etc. And then one day you go, I wonder what things look like without the glasses. And the guy who gave you the glasses goes, no, don't take the glasses off. Don't take the glasses off. Now you're like, wait a minute. I really want to take the glasses off. Right? And you take the glasses off and you find out the glasses were the illusion. It's not a baby. It's a grown man.
Ooh.
And he's been inside your house the whole time.
Chewing on your wife.
Cuddling with your wife.
Oh, no.
So there's more where that came from. Yaz, what do you think?
What an incredible analogy. You are a master storyteller. You had Tucker Carlson enthralled. But no, it's a valid point. You know, there's so many things in this world that if we just take off whatever glasses we were given at birth, we would see things from a different perspective and see things perhaps maybe a little bit more clearly. And I think that's something that we just need to be open to. Just be open to the idea that we're not seeing things for what they actually are. And just that little bit of openness, I think, can go very, very far, especially in this current political climate, especially when we are literally seeing things and they're telling us something else entirely. And this has been going on for the entirety of Trump as a politician. But you know, from the moment that he was inaugurated back in 2017, and he told us that there were so many more people at his inauguration than what we ourselves could see. And now though, what we're seeing with the shootings in Minneapolis, it's unbearable for a lot of people. And a lot of, I have seen people who are more right-leaning online say that, you know, this administration treats us like we're stupid and that we can't use our own eyes. And like, yeah, we've been telling you that.
Yeah, so look, you get that the guy giving out the glasses is establishment media. And so who's the wife and who's, well, all right, I'll just say it real quick, but watch the whole interview and then you'll get a sense of the whole conversation. But the baby, who turns out to be a grown man, is really all the lobbyists. And so, yeah, we're mainly talking about Israel in that discussion. But as I explained, it's not just Israel. It's, oh yeah, the oil companies mean well for you, drill baby drill. And then you find out, oh, they're taking $35 billion off of us. They're just robbing us. So, and Israel similarly, oh, poor little victim. And you find out, no, they're doing massive military expansion. They're an imperial empire. They're committing a genocide and they've taken 300 billion off of us and they want another 100 billion. And who's the wife? The wife is our politicians. So then Tucker and I talked about who's the worst morally culpable out of those three, and who do you get out of your house first? So check out the whole interview for that. It's in the link down below. Interesting conversation between the left and the right, and certainly an interesting agreement. The next part of this is let's take some action together. OperationConsequences.com, and that's also in the link below. All right, we got to take a break here. We'll be right back.
They want to make you drink Starbucks every day from now until forever.
let's go to Super Chat. Make It Make Sense wrote in earlier in the show about Don Lemon. Yeah, he just randomly stumbled onto this illegal storming of a church. He wasn't involved at all, just like the Epstein totally did himself in. Wait, let's pull out all the journalists who went into the Capitol just videoing January 6th. If Megyn Kelly participated in a forced entry, yes, she should be arrested. The church is private property, not public space. So I get it, brother. We disagree on that one. So here, I'll tell you, that's your point of view. My point of view is, no, he was aware that they were going to go into the church. Like for example, there's embedded journalists in military sometimes. They were embedded in Iraq. Israel doesn't really let you embed in the action because they're about to murder tons of civilians. But afterwards, they'll do like embedded propaganda tours, right? And so, but it is of war crimes that Israel committed, etc. So you could say, hey, the reporter, then if he's going on it, is equally guilty. No, the reporter there is there to document it. And you can criticize the reporter, good job, bad job of being a journalist, not being a journalist, or doing the right kind of journalism. But you don't arrest the journalist for the crimes that, even if they are crimes, of the crimes that they are documenting. So that's why I don't think it makes any sense. That's why I wouldn't arrest Megyn Kelly in that situation, nor would I arrest Don Lemon. And by the way, you mentioned January 6th. People were taping January 6th. And if you're a reporter taping January 6th, why would I want you arrested? That's crazy. So in my opinion, okay? So all right, good, healthy disagreement. And I like that we got a range of people watching. Rai K says on Super Chat, hey Cenk, I'm not sure if it'll be covered on the show, but have you seen that Hassan got banned on Twitch simply for comparing ISIS tactics with the IDF and calling Israeli trolls ultra-Zionist pigs, which is objectively true? Look, guys, when you're talking about Israel, you have to worry about the censors 24/7 because the Israel First crowd is a bunch of banshees who just scream at the top of their lungs at executives. We'll destroy your business. It's your fault. We'll destroy Twitch if you don't get rid of Hassan. He's not allowed to say this. So they have to deal with that all the time. And so they terrorize everyone who's a critic of Israel. So is ICE similar to IDF? Of course it is. In fact, a lot of our law enforcement trains with the IDF, which I think is a terrible idea. They're getting trained in terrorism. And so, and then calling people ultra-Zionist pigs. Are you kidding me? I mean, I've been called 10 billion times worse, 2 million times on every platform. Did that get banned? The most vicious bigots in America are indisputably Israel First. They're constantly talking about how Muslims are pigs and animals. They should be killed, they should be destroyed. Muslims are terrorists, they're the worst. Where's their ban? Nowhere. This is total BS. All right, back on TOT Cenk, Yaz and Amanda King. Amanda, thank you for joining by hitting the join button below on YouTube. We appreciate you. And guys, at 8 o'clock Eastern, I'm going to interview a state rep from Minnesota who's got on the ground stories from what happened there with ICE and Border Patrol. And by the way, he is a Young Turks viewer and member, and he got inspired by the show, ran for office, won. Okay, so it's going to be an amazing interview coming up in a little bit. But Yaz, what's next?
All right, we have Tulsi Gabbard next. Let's roll the tape.
FBI agents raided a county election facility looking for ballots and other records from the 2020 election. Now, this is tied to President Trump's claim that he won Georgia. There's no evidence that his claims are correct, and Republican officials in the state have also disputed it.
We should also point out that the director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, was here on the ground last night in an unprecedented move. The administration says that she was following, quote, taking action under President Trump's directive to secure election integrity.
All right, well, in case you've forgotten, Tulsi Gabbard is our current director of national intelligence, but you might be wondering what she's been up to since she's taken on that role. Well, lately, she has been searching high and low for fraud in the 2020 presidential election. There was no fraud in 2016, none in 2024, but in 2020, there's gotta be something there. Cenk, your 2 cents before we get into it.
Yeah, the director of national intelligence has nothing to do with a domestic law enforcement. In fact, she can't participate in domestic law enforcement, but she's there anyway. So why is that? Well, wait till you hear the conspiracy theory that Trump has about Italian space lasers and how they work with the Chinese. And well, since that's a foreign policy issue, we have the director of national intelligence. No, they're going there because they're up to no good, and it's really insanity. But the Italian satellite story is amazing. So let's dive into it.
Yeah, I feel like everyone has space lasers except for me, and I'm getting a little jealous. But ground zero for all of this is, of course, Georgia, specifically Fulton County, Georgia. Trump continues to insist that the 2020 election, which he famously lost to Joe Biden, was rigged, despite still being able to produce any supporting evidence to back up his claim. So Tulsi is on the case. Last August, Trump said that Gabbard had the missing evidence proving election fraud in 2020, and Gabbard said that at the time that the information would be reported once it was all complied, but that was August and we still haven't seen anything from her. However, more recently, she turned up unexpectedly at a warehouse in Fulton County, Georgia, as the FBI was executing a search warrant. And no, according to former DNIs, this is not normal. And it's not normal for her to have been there at all. It's unprecedented and it's out of scope for the DNI. The DNI does not have authority to participate in FBI operations, though they may share intelligence on matters pertaining to foreign, not domestic espionage, because that is the crux of the issue. As Cenk explained, ODNI is supposed to investigate election security regarding foreign influence, not domestic. So Georgia Senator Jon Ossoff spoke out against Gabbard's presence at this FBI raid in Fulton County. He said, "My constituents in Georgia, and I think much of the American public, are quite reasonably alarmed in asking questions after the director of national intelligence was spotted bizarrely and personally lurking in an FBI evidence truck in Fulton County, Georgia yesterday." He said this Thursday at an Intelligence Committee hearing for Trump's nominee to head the National Security Agency, Lieutenant Joshua Rudd. Ossoff also questioned whether ODNI is straying far outside of its lane. It does appear that way, but as to why she was there at all, Senate Intelligence Committee Vice Chairman Mark Warner, he offered 2 explanations. One is that she believes there's a legitimate foreign intelligence nexus, in which case Gabbard violated her legal obligation to keep the intelligence committees fully and currently informed, or she is attempting to insert the intelligence community into what Warner called a domestic political stunt designed to legitimize conspiracy theories that undermine our democracy. So what exactly was this FBI warrant about in the first place? Well, a copy of the warrant obtained by the Washington Post said the Fulton County search was part of a criminal investigation into possible violations of 2 federal laws, one regarding the retention and preservation of election records by state officials, and the other criminalizing efforts to defraud voters from an impartially conducted election. The warrant authorized agents to seize all physical ballots from the 2020 election, voting machine tabulator tapes, images produced during the ballot count, and voter rolls from that year. So FBI agents left the raid with 700 boxes of records in FBI trucks, but County Commission Chairman Rob Pitts does not know what they're doing with them. He is concerned, though, that Fulton County is getting special attention from the federal government. Pitts noted concern that Wednesday's warrant could be a pretext to take over Fulton County's elections, a multi-year goal of Republicans in the state. "We will not give 1 inch to those who seek to take control of our elections," he said. "We will fight this in court with every resource we have." And of course, as Cenk teased a little bit, Trump did weigh in on the situation. On Wednesday night, he reposted a claim to Truth Social that Italian military satellites were hacking into US voting machines during the 2020 election, switching votes from Trump to Biden, and also China reportedly coordinated the whole operation. The CIA oversaw it. The FBI covered it up, all to install Biden as a puppet. And he also warns that this is just the beginning and prosecutions are coming. And yeah, it's such a bizarre, first of all, is this the first time that we're hearing about these Italian satellite laser things that have been hacking into our machines? Because it's hard to keep track of all the conspiracies surrounding this election. But it's also, it is a real concern, and maybe because I live in Texas and I live in Houston, which is the largest city and the largest county in Texas, there is a thing where the state and federal governments are trying to interfere in local elections because they want to control them better. And we all know that Trump has a history with Fulton County and with Georgia in general and their elections. And so it does make sense that they would want to take some of their resources from them, put it under federal, call it all into question in the first place, and then say that the state or the federal government needs to go in there to monitor bad behavior. The thing is though, it's 2026 now. It's been 6 years since the 2020 election, and there is still no evidence, no credible evidence that there was any kind of election interference that came from anyone besides Donald Trump himself, right? We have it on audio, right? We can hear it, so I don't even know why it's still a question. And then why is Tulsi Gabbard filling this position if she's not even doing the position that she was put to do?
Yeah.
Any thoughts, Cenk?
Yeah, so when Democrats lose, Russia did it. When Trump loses, China did it. Does either side have any evidence? Well, we did a giant investigation of the Russian situation, and we found out that the Russians affected 4 million tweets, which is like afternoon for me. And Trump and the Russians had not colluded. So now when Trump says, yeah, it's maybe the Venezuelans, it was an earlier theory that he had, the ghost of Hugo Chavez along with Italian space lasers and the Chinese. Well, good news, you get to present that evidence. You could present it in court. Oh, right, you lost all 61 cases. You were humiliated in court and never once presented a single shred of evidence. You could have showed that to Republicans in Georgia, Arizona, and all the other places where the state Republicans said, no, you're flat out lying. None of that happened. We've looked 1,000 times. We would love for you to win. We voted for you, we're backing you, we want you to win, but I'm not gonna lie on your behalf. There's absolutely no evidence. By the way, you could show it in a court of public opinion. You could show it in public right now. Tell us about the Italian space lasers and why the Italians were working with the Chinese. Never, there's never any evidence. Meanwhile, as you're distracted with all this nonsense, which foreign country is actually running the country? Is it Russia or is it China? No, it's neither. That's all to distract you. It's Israel. No matter if Biden wins or Trump wins, who's in charge? Israel. Biden gives him $21.7 billion to commit a genocide. Trump then turns around, as soon as he gets in, he gives him an extra $12 billion. Keep committing genocide, keep committing wars. So no, there's one country that interferes in our elections 24/7, that's Israel. They've donated to 94% of Congress. #1 lifetime donor to Mike Johnson, #1 lifetime donor to Hakeem Jeffries, #1 lifetime donor to Joe Biden, and to Donald Trump. It's not unclear which country is massively meddling in our elections, our government, our media. It is Israel. All this China, Russia, Italy stuff is just nonsense, crying from Hillary Clinton who lost or Donald Trump who lost. So, and finally, Tulsi Gabbard. I mean, look guys, at some point when you see a show be right about one thing after another, it isn't that like, oh, we have the better opinions. We're trying to look up the facts for you guys, and we take a lot of crap when we are ahead of people. And so when we said Tulsi Gabbard is nowhere near a progressive, that was a year before anybody else did. And then people are like, oh no, you're betraying progressives because Tulsi's a demigod of progressivism. How'd that turn out? Now she's out there like in a pathetic effort to try to manufacture evidence on behalf of Donald Trump that the 2020 election was stolen. The least progressive, honest thing you could do ever. Now she's just like an obvious lackey for the most extreme, like lunatic theories of Donald Trump. So at some point, being right matters because, so that's why when we tell you next time, Please trust us because it makes a difference. You've got to pick the right person in the primaries, so you've got the right candidates who actually represent America. And so and look, at this point, because of the news of today, I know what's going to happen next. As we covered earlier in the show, we're going to attack Iran, and they're all pretending that it was all because we care so much about poor innocent Muslim civilians in Iran. What a joke! We have financed the slaughter of tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of Muslim citizens, civilians in Gaza, let alone all across the Middle East. So please don't believe their lies anymore. It's a uniparty. They're working for the same folks. The idea that Russia and China are rigging elections are nonsense. All right, last words, yes.
Yeah, it's like this administration has never heard of Occam's razor, don't know her, don't want to know her. The most obvious answer is what it is in this case, right? Everything with this administration is just like people are being gaslit constantly because they can't admit to the one thing of what it actually is, right? We look at what's happening in Minnesota, we see the videos, we see what's happening there. They say, nope, it's something else, right? We saw what happened in 2020. Joe Biden won the election because that's how it goes with elections, right? It's a 50-50 shot, right? I mean, obviously the odds are a little unbalanced, but one of them has to win, and that time it was Joe Biden, the other time it was him, good for him. But he can't accept that, and he doesn't even need to fight this battle anymore. And that's what I think is so bizarre about all of this, right? It's so dependent on his brand more than anything else, right? He has to maintain this idea that he is infallible, and the only reason why he lost something is because there was cheating on the other side. Somebody cheated, and that's why now he is a loser, but he can't be a loser because that's the worst thing you can be if you're Donald Trump. So instead, he has to play this game where he pretends like, I don't know, maybe the Italians were shooting lasers and through satellites, and the Chinese were telling them to do it, and his culture that he has built with among his supporters of conspiracy theories, right? And that is a culture that was deliberately built and created on that side. That comes into play, and it comes in very, very handy whenever he tells them things like Italian space lasers are being shot at us by the Chinese, because they're like, you know what, maybe it's possible. And they will take what he says and run with it. And he doesn't even need to say any more than that, because they will fill in the rest of the blanks themselves, because that is what they've been trained to do. That is what they have learned to do. That is what they have come to pride themselves on their ability to do. The only thing that they can't do is just like look at something for what it is and accept that reality. They are so unable and unwilling to accept reality that they have to construct this alternate universe where, space lasers.
Yeah, and we're doing hyperbole. We know it's Italian satellites, okay? But the Italian satellites didn't work with the Chinese either. Okay, so when we come back, a little bit more news for you guys, and also in just about 5 minutes or so, we're gonna talk to one of the state reps from Minnesota, get an on-the-ground report of what's happening there. We'll be right back. All right, back on the social break. Let's go to YouTube members. Arcane Eclectus said, senior interview with Tucker dropped, Cenk. Can't wait to watch. Comments look positive. Yeah, they are fascinatingly positive, but that makes sense. We picked the topics that we agreed on, and I thought it was a really interesting conversation. I'm gratified to see that it's everybody seems to be reacting well to it. But don't worry, I'm sure we'll have our haters. Give it a minute. Eva Whitman writes in, Lemon was just following and reporting the protest. I saw the live stream. Delivery Ghost says, hot take, if you use a religious venue for political reasons, you should lose tax exempt status since it's no longer about the spiritual. Oh my God, almost like I don't want to say almost every religious institution, but tons of religious leaders violate that clause. You want to know, in my experience, I've seen it all. I don't want to get into which religion does the most. But I tell you, the religion that does it the least is Muslims. Why? You say, oh, you're biased. No way. No, guys, here's a real reason why. Because they're so scared. Like, they're scared of violating any rule by even an inch. Because if they do, the law enforcement will be all over them. Israel First will be all over them, right? They can't wait to pick on Muslims. So Muslims are extraordinarily careful, including in the mosques here in the US. Squiddies writes in on Twitch. I've seen those Chinese drone laser shows. I'm pretty sure they're the ones with the space laser technology, if anyone has it. Yeah, I've seen those too. Those are fun. Sad and angry patriot said, as a condition of war, the politicians who start them must designate one of their children to go into battle with the first wave of the infantry. This should be a law. I'll tell you, we would have almost no wars if that was the case. All right, now. Let's go to Super Chat. Deb Long 1083 says, I don't think that US can come back from this, Cenk. Trump is going to rig the midterms, he's not leaving, and now the world is continually remaining on the edge. The world will never trust the US again. We've done some serious and perhaps permanent damage to America's reputation. That is true. We'll have to work super hard to get past that. Again, if he goes to rig the elections, we're gonna have an explosion in this country politically. And I think he'll lose that battle. He's losing the ICE battle. I think he'll lose that battle if he tries. I hope to God he doesn't. So no promises though. R. Stone says, Don Lemon gets arrested for documenting a protest at a church. Meanwhile, a random YouTuber tries to break into a childcare facility to document potential fraud. He goes free and maybe even gets a Fox News show. So I hear you. I don't remember if he was trying to break in illegally, just breaking and entering. Don't violate any laws, don't commit any crimes. But for the reporting that he did, I wouldn't have arrested him. So fair to everybody, to the best of our abilities. We'll be back in a second. All right, back on TYT. Last two comments here are from Super Chat. I'll read those to you and then we'll go to our interview. DJ Payne writes in, it's amazing how they say they're going to get child sex abusers off the streets while at the same time they pardon sex offenders and drug dealers and protecting all the Epstein clients. Yeah, okay. And that is factually true. One of the worst drug dealers of all time, the former president of Honduras, Trump pardoned him. White collar criminals that committed fraud has pardoned dozens of them. It is insane. Epstein's clients prosecuted none of them. But Don Lemon's the real problem? Come on, absurd. Last one is that Shady Nasty wrote in, glad to see TYT team working on this special day that is the screening of Melania.
Oh, what about the children? Give me a break.
Look, I think we're gonna be done enough time for that you guys could all rush out and see Melania, and if you do, you'll be the only ones. All right, we're gonna take another break here, come back with the revolution. Minnesota state legislator, Young Turks viewer, what's happening on the ground in Minnesota and what's gonna happen next. We'll discuss that when we return. All right, back on TYT. So now we're going to talk to Minnesota State Rep. His name is Alex Falconer. He's a member of the Minnesota Democratic Farmer Labor Party, which is fun. Minnesota has that. He represents District 49A in the southwestern Twin Cities metropolitan area. So Alex, welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So Alex, the Washington Examiner says that you are one of the agitators who is helping to run a resistance network in Minneapolis. That sounds badass. So is that true?
Yeah. Guilty as charged, I guess. I can't find anywhere to cash my Soros check, but somebody might take it somewhere.
Okay, so Alex, let's take it one step at a time. So we'll come back to that.
Yeah.
So how'd you get into politics in the first place?
Oh, well, I've just been politically active all my life. In college, I was on the college Dems. That's when Senator Wellstone's plane went down. Obviously tragic, but carried it forward. Started working for the Democratic Party in Minnesota, like you said, the Democratic Farm Labor Party, the DFL as we call it. About 20 years ago, was field organizer, candidate manager, working across the country for different races. And just eventually my current state rep retired, and I was just kind of like, hey, you know what? Here's my shot. So just decided to get into it. It was just something that I'd always kind of considered, wanted to serve the community, do what I could to serve my community. So here we are.
All right, I love it. We encourage people to run. I love that you did run. And so, was it extraordinarily difficult or not when you ran?
My district, no, it's a relatively blue district. It was pretty safe. I did have 3 opponents going into our party's endorsing convention, and then one of them stayed into the primary. So mostly it was door knocking and getting everything ready for the primary in August. We have kind of a late primary in Minnesota. So it kind of killed my summer, but so it goes. And then obviously came out the victor there. And then, first term, you never know, or first the election, never know what's going to happen. So definitely did everything that I could, all the door knocking, all the phone calls, all the events to make sure that I got the win locked in. So yeah, it was fun. It's something that I'd done for other candidates for like a lot of my career. And it was just time for for my name on the ballot. And have to flip the script and be told what to do instead of telling other people what to do. So that's probably like the hardest thing is candidate brain takes over. You get silly, crazy ideas, and then somebody says, "No, don't do that," and I'll be like, "Oh yeah, I would have also told me not to." So.
Yeah. All right, that's awesome. I love that you did that. All right, let's go to what the Washington Examiner wrote, then I'll have you respond to it specifically. They said DFL State Rep Alex Falconer, who represents Eden Prairie, publicly acknowledged that he's helping to run, quote, a resistance network on Signal. We have a couple of groups on the app Signal that we'd love for you to join. Falconer recently told residents at an anti-ICE community meeting. Now they've got more, but so how do you respond to those charges?
I mean, is there something illegal about being in a chat group? I mean, this is a bunch of people that are just everyday citizens, just church ladies, your grocery store clerks, the bus driver. I mean, these are just my neighbors. These are people that are just concerned about our community members being targeted just because they're black and brown, being scooped up off the streets. The kids 5 years old being detained and used as bait so that they're to draw their dad out, and now that kid is in the concentration camp in Texas. Like, if there's something wrong with people banding together in the face of fascism to protect our neighbors, fine, sign me up. That's me.
Yeah, I think you should be very proud of that, actually. Okay, so you were an organizer before. You organized folks in Minnesota. So tell us what happened on the ground. So when did you guys first hear that ICE and Border Patrol were headed to Minneapolis, and what was your reaction? And then we'll go through the timeline of what happened.
Yeah, so Operation Metro Surge, whatever fun name they pick out for this operation, started early December. I think the 2nd or the 3rd they announced it, and right away agents were on the ground. we were noticing them just driving around in their very dark tinted SUVs, a lot of out of state license plates, a lot of cars with missing license plates. We had documented and watched them switch out license plates, trying to evade people that were tracking cars, which, hey, that's illegal. I mean, we've got one picture where there's 2 cars side by side with identical license plates. I mean, they're not even very good at this. So pretty obvious what they're up to. So we started getting active. We were seeing immediately they started the hardest hitting activity in Minneapolis and St. Paul and kind of the inner city area there in the metro area, and we're in the suburbs, but we knew it was coming. We were seeing other instances and notices of people being abducted and harassed in kind of nearby communities. And so at that point, we were just like, we got to get something ready. So I reached out to a couple other people that are really involved in kind of grassroots organizing and politics, and was like, we got to set something up. So we really just invented it on our own. We talked to some people from Chicago who had this go on and what their response was. And how they worked it, and got some helpful tips and just the it's out there. The resistance is run on Signal. So the Signal chats that we have, and it started getting organized. And within like a day, I had 40, 50 people, all from my community, that just want to do something, do anything. And at that point, we're still just kind of being like, we're just gonna wait and see. Here we are. Kind of get ready. There's a bunch of trainings of what it means to be a constitutional observer, which is just simply a person and their phone standing on a sidewalk, videoing our law enforcement, or quote unquote law enforcement, doing their activities in our public, on our streets. Nothing wrong with that, First Amendment. So we're kind of getting prepared, teaching people what to do. And then the first big instance in my area was December 13th, and ICE agents were out kind of trolling around. They saw 2 Hispanic or Latino men on top of a roof at a construction site. This is December in Minnesota. It was very cold. I think the high that day was -6. And they put up a perimeter police tape. They're not police, but they put up police tape. They wouldn't allow anybody to get there to help them down. And they more or less just trap them on the roof. And it was essentially, you're either going to freeze to death or you're going to come down and we're going to detain you. The workers, I mean, my God, these guys, whether or not they knew it, absolute heroes for what they did, because within, I let my group know within a half hour, we had 20, 30 people outside with whistles, trying to challenge the ICE agents there, just asking, hey, do you have a judicial warrant? Like, if they're after the worst of the worst, they're in the system. Like, they know they committed a crime. They have their name. Everything that goes when somebody builds a case and does the case work and the documentation. They didn't have any of that. We asked them, do you know what their name is? They didn't know that. So it's clearly racial profiling. They trapped these 2 guys on the roof. Wouldn't let them come down under threat of being abducted. 5 hours later, one of them, over that course of time, we're up to probably 50, 60 people that are outside. And people were just flooding in, and they were bringing, just out of the goodness of their heart, bringing hand warmers, bringing blankets, hoping that if there was some way that we could get something to these guys. But in doing that presence, then ICE had to draw in more agents, and the standoff lasted for like 5 hours. And then finally, one of them succumbed. Hypothermia was setting in. He had to come down. They took him by ambulance to the hospital, and ICE followed and detained him from in the hospital itself. And then the other guy, we were able to wait out ICE. They left. We got him down, and some heroic people drove him home.
Yeah. So look.
That's how it started, at least in my area.
Yeah. So we'll get to the shootings in a second. But so Alex, first of all, I totally get it. You're the state representative. So what you're doing with your community is representing them, organizing them, leading them. I mean, I think that's what a good representative is supposed to do. So then people can argue on the right, well, yeah, but I don't like what your community thinks, and I don't like that you're organizing them and you're leading them. But that's kind of their problem. So now, at the same time, let's talk about some of the bigger issues here, and then I want to get to Renee Good and Alex Preddy and what happened next. So, the right wing says, well, I mean, you guys are interfering with law enforcement. Though your whistles are annoying them, the protests are, you're getting in their way. So what's your response to that, Alex?
Too bad. No, there's nothing illegal about blowing a whistle. There's nothing illegal about letting people know that these masked anonymous ghouls are traipsing about the neighborhood, going door to door, sometimes setting up checkpoints, demanding people's papers before they'll let them go on their way. Like, that's the illegal thing. People should be upset about that, not about people banding together and trying to protect kids from getting abducted at bus stops, from trying to protect workers that are in their jobs. They're working at major corporations, shopping centers that you need paperwork to be legit and to work. They're perfectly legal. They have a job, they have immigration papers, they're going through the process, and they're being stopped, detained, abducted, sent to Texas within days. That's the illegal stuff. You know, we're out just trying to do what we can to stop this from happening, to slow it down, to frustrate it, sure. But the fact that they run away when we start blowing our whistles because they don't know who it is that they're actually trying to find, and then they turn around and say, "Oh, the whistles were annoying." It's like, okay, I mean, I saw somebody comment, a veterinarian was like, "Hey, you know, I get barked and growled and bit every single day, but I don't shoot the dog." Like, you have a job. There's certain hazards and obstacles about it, but you're still supposed to do the job professionally and do it right, and they just are not.
Yeah. So, Alex, they would also say, but these are undocumented immigrants, and ICE is supposed to pick them up, or Border Patrol is supposed to pick them up. So why do you guys want the undocumented immigrants to stay?
It's not really about undocumented or documented. It's about the human tragedy of all of this. We've had so many periods of just moments in the country of deportation where people were deported without having to go door by door, storming an entire community. There's 3,000 ICE agents in Minnesota. That the 10 highest populated police districts in the state don't have 3,000 officers. Like, this is the military occupation, a paramilitary of poorly trained, lethally armed goons that are just rampaging in our streets. So it's not a matter of documented or undocumented. It's about how they're going about it. And it's also the fact that the majority of the people that they are arresting and detaining have no criminal background. The minority of them are undocumented. Most of them are here. They have legal paperwork. They're in the process. I mean, they're even arresting people at their immigration check-ins at the courthouse. They're doing everything right. They're doing by the book. They're showing up to the court to go through their immigration process, bringing their paperwork, and they're getting arrested, detained, and sent to these concentration camps. Like, that's just reprehensible. And when they're not doing anything in any sort of targeted way, they're not going after the worst of the worst only. They're operating on some sort of a quota system, scooping up Black and brown folks and hauling them away. That's abominable, and we're not going to stand for it.
Yeah, so I want to clarify a couple of things for the audience, then I'm going to ask you about what happened when Renee Good was shot. So first off, there's a couple of different layers here, guys. So there's the undocumented immigrants who are committed a crime and are criminals. Some of them are serious criminals. So they were the first ones that were taken out. So when you see Kristi Noem, etc., talking about, oh, we're just in Minneapolis to get child pedophiles and stuff, that's nonsense. That's not true, right? So they did do that earlier. But we're not at that stage at all. But also, Representative Falconer is making a really important point. So some of them are just undocumented and have gone through the process or didn't go through the process and are here without papers. The others are actually in the middle of going through the process. So they're actually following the law, and it's the federal government that's breaking the law. And Alex, that reminded me of what Martin Luther King used to say about civil disobedience that they did in the South, because he said, yeah, we're doing civil disobedience, and the cops are, of course, in Selma, they beat them halfway to death, and and had sick the dogs on him, et cetera, and often arrest them. But he's like, but we're not actually breaking the law. The federal law in that case was on their side. It was the local authorities that were breaking the law. Now it's reversed. It's the federal authorities that are often breaking the law. And so there's, if you're, and even so, Alex, you guys aren't really disobeying them, right? You're out there protesting, you're speaking, you're blowing whistles, but at no point is there anything that I've seen. You could argue Alex Preddy 11 days before he got shot shouldn't have kicked out a taillight, but my God, is that a minor infraction, right? Yeah. So certainly not worth getting executed over, or really, I mean, they didn't even bother to arrest him. That's how minor the infraction was. And so now, I just wanted to give that background. Now we go to Renee Good. A lot of folks are already in the streets. You're already protesting, trying to protect your neighbors, et cetera. So what happened on the ground? What was the feeling? What was the reaction after Renee Good was shot?
I mean, it was shock and horror. And just absolute anger at how they so obviously and quickly tried to lie about it and to spin it in a way. I mean, the first thing they said within minutes before the crime scene was even fully investigated, before the body was even moved, they were calling her a terrorist, and just trying to label as if she was in there to run over the agent, and he was fearing for his life. I mean, every video that you can see out there has him standing from the side, leaning in. There was clearly no danger, and none of shooting a vehicle that's fleeing is not in their manual of how they're supposed to operate. And just the fact that they were trying to gaslight us immediately, trying to do this, and that's just one of the important things that we're trying to do. Like the whole anti-ICE movement, whatever, is people looking out for their own constitutional rights. Like, we know we cannot trust this federal government. They're going to lie to us. They lie to us every single day. So we're out there with our phones to document, because if something happens, we have the truth. And that's what we're trying to do. So yeah, people were upset, but in all of that still, we know they're trying to get to a point where they're trying to provoke, so that if somebody lashes back and strikes at one of them, that's going to be their trigger to escalate and try to do that. And so everything that we're doing is just try to stay calm. So, we've peaceful protests, peaceful marches, candlelight vigils, but then the whole mutual aid side of all of our community response groups, of just making sure that the people that are left behind have food. Have rental assistance, can go about their lives, that their kids can go to school. Like, everything that we're trying to do in the face of this it's bringing people together. I think that's the other thing. They don't realize what they're doing is they are uniting Minnesota under one banner like we've never been united before. And if there's a silver lining, it's that if there's this phrase of Minnesota nice, they're all this kind of happy-go-lucky, get along. It's like, sure, maybe, we're affable folk. We got to survive harsh winters, but Minnesota nice is not just quiet compliance. We're not going to let them storm through our communities. It's Minnesota nice is standing up for our communities. It's working with our neighbors to protect kids at the bus stops. It's yesterday I had to help a woman get prenatal care because the day previous she was followed by ICE. They boxed her in the parking lot, wouldn't let her get out of her car. So she drove off, thankfully, didn't get out. Had to drive through 3 different cities before they finally left her alone, hiding at somebody's house. And we had to arrange for a doula to go in to give her just basic checkup care. Like, this is what people are upset about, that women who are expecting are afraid to go to the doctor. Kids are afraid to go to school. People are afraid to go to work. Like this, we're terrorized, we're occupied. And so the anger is real. But at the same time, we know that we've got to keep it in check, and we're doing everything we can to stay peaceful and calm. And above all else, everything that we're trying to do is legal.
Yeah, so 2 things about that. I was gonna ask you about the unity, and I'm gonna ask you in a second, but I don't think you guys have gotten enough credit, because they always wanna find like the smallest little infraction and go, aha, they had it coming. Renee Good said something, or her partner said something sarcastic. Good enough, kill him. No, not anywhere near good enough, not even close, right? And so, but no one is noting the fact that, wait, there was nobody throwing bricks through store windows. There was no fires. There was no riots. I think overall it couldn't have been more Minnesota nice. I thought it was, and I do sometimes criticize protests when they go too far and they give the government an excuse to crack down more. And I don't think you guys did that at all in Minnesota. I thought it was amazing. But I want to go back to the unity point because I was going to ask you about it just as you brought it up. Is there any split in the community? Are there Republicans going, "Oh, I can't believe you guys, you're being so mean to ICE," or are you just not seeing that anywhere in Minnesota?
Well, I mean, in the real world, no, I don't think anybody is excited about anything that ICE is going on. And as a legislator, I went to the Chamber of Commerce events for my town, Republican oriented, business oriented, talking about tax policy, talking about more traditional economic conservative issues. But people that I know are Republicans were coming up to me and said, "This is not what we voted for. Like this is too far." People are upset. These are our neighbors. These are our community. Like if somebody hasn't had it personally touch them, ask one person and it's touched them. I mean, we're at a first ring of a degree of separation for how this is impacting people. So no, I mean, if you check my Facebook feed, yeah, it seems like there's a lot of people that are upset, but they're either bots, they're not from Minnesota, or they're just anonymous online trolls. That get off on just doing whatever it is that they do behind their screen to agitate and to call names. But Minnesotans in the real world here, no, we're fed up with this. It's not okay. The polling shows that. The action in the street shows that. I mean, every morning there's people on every corner just looking out for the neighbors, and that's the peaceful resistance that we're trying to cultivate and just make sure that stays the safest way that we can do this.
Yeah. So speaking of Minnesota nice, we finally get to Alex Preddy. So guy is a nurse for veterans. His job is to literally take care of people and tend to them. In the first video we saw of the shooting, what's he doing? He's protecting the women that were there along with him, trying to get one of them back up when ICE confronts him. Even in the video where he's angry, which by the way, he has every right to be angry, and he does something he shouldn't do, he kicks the tire and he kicks the taillight. Again, tiniest infractions I can imagine. And I'm not the only one who thinks that. Border Patrol got out of the car, apprehended him, and then chose not to arrest him for it because they thought it was so minor, right? So, but even in that video, the very first thing he does when the Border Patrol finally leaves is he goes and turns to the other protesters. Everybody okay? Everybody safe? So when Alex was shot and killed, tell me about the second wave of outrage, sadness, and what happened on the ground in Minneapolis.
I mean, so it's just trauma layered upon trauma. On this one, with Renee, it was horrific and bad in every sense of the word. With Alex, again, here we are. I mean, and just to step back, on Friday last week, we had 50,000 people marching through Minneapolis. It was cold, but we were there. And doing our constitutional right, making our voices heard, staying very peaceful throughout it all. Target Center, the basketball arena, was filled up with people. By the time I got there, halfway through the march, I mean, that's where there was a program after. It was just a massive movement, peaceful. It was beautiful. People coming together, voicing their frustration. Like, there we were, peaceful moment. The next day, they shot and killed Alex. So again, just anger, just outrage. People immediately in the community, get to the scene. We had some of our other legislative members more proximal to the area there, just trying to help and de-escalate, try to keep people calm. And by and large, it turned into what could have easily devolved into a riot, turning into a vigil. The memorial gets set up, and it is what it is. I mean, the state is devastated. It's sad. The federal government is killing our own people, and they're not investigating who it is, anything about the incident. They're not sharing information with our investigations here in the state. It's unbelievable. It just keeps sinking into me. This is like, how did we get here? What is going on? Is this America? And it's just right now in Minnesota, it doesn't feel like it. It's hard to fathom what's going on here. And so I think now it's become more of a somber reality. People are sad. They're disgusted with this. We're exhausted. It's been 2 months of this hell, of this occupation. But I've felt within the communities and the response networks that we have, the resolve growing. People are still out there, still doing things. New people are still joining. Every time one of these incidents happens, we get an influx of new people they're just finally like, I have to do it. I have to step up now. And doing everything that we can. So
yeah,
it's tragedy upon tragedy. It's sad, it's horrific, it's heartbreaking. And that's what's happening to Minnesotans. But we're gonna get through it.
So
best as we can.
Yeah, Representative Falconer, so you guys did an amazing job of resisting the occupation, and it looks like you pushed it back. Now it's not 100% yet, and Trump just today was like, no way, we're not backing away. And but certainly Homan was saying that they are going to. So what's your sense of where we are? Do you think that we're close to a drawdown here, or are they gonna research? What do you guys see and hearing on the streets?
I mean, yeah, the little guy left, Bovino, but Homan coming in, he's just a new face, same Gestapo as far as we're concerned. I mean, this morning, alerts of buses being stalked by ICE in my community. Yesterday, the woman I had to help get prenatal care. Cities and towns nearby, same thing going on. Like, we've noticed absolutely no difference in how ICE is acting and behaving. The numbers here, how they're going about it, they're still going door to door. They're still driving checkpoints. I'll believe it when I see it, but I mean, can you believe anything that comes out of this administration and what they say? It really just seems like they try to put a new face on the issue to try to get the Senate to do their little stopgap deal and buy some time. I think if anything, that was the only goal, but it's still the exact same on the ground. Nothing has changed.
Yeah, Alex, do you even think this is about immigration, or do you think the actual point is the occupation?
No, oh my gosh, I can't imagine this is anything about immigration. I mean, there's so many metrics about talking about Minneapolis is this most overrun city in the country, and immediately fact checking, PolitiFact, whoever it was puts it up. It's like, no, Minneapolis is 78th for the densest, most immigrant or undocumented people in the country. It's not about it. It's about terror. It's about trying to prove a point. I think they tried to walk into Minnesota, think that they were just going to roll over us. Turns out, no. This is a land settled by Vikings. We're not going to lay this down. The refugees that are here from war-torn countries are not going to let a peaceful life that they came to Minnesota slip through their fingers. The Native people that are here first that survived genocide, like they've got their land and what they're trying to believe and the lives that they want to lead. Like, we're not these little passive little weenies that I don't know.
Yeah,
we're Minnesota. We're here. We're not gonna take this.
Yeah,
it's not about immigration. It's about terror, and it's about distraction. It's about trying to blame Black and brown people for the economic hardship when it's billionaires are the ones that are stealing all of our nation's wealth and hoarding it for themselves. I mean, that's what this is about. It's just another smoke and mirrors distraction, but this time it's actually costing people's lives, and it's gone too far. It's reprehensible.
Yeah.
And ICE just needs to get out.
We're in a crazy time where we're now talking to representatives from the occupied cities of America. I mean, that is wild. Not what we would have guessed 10 years ago if our life depended on it, right? And so it is an amazing time. Super last thing, I've suggested building a statue of Alex Preddy. Any thoughts about that? Any chance that happens in Minneapolis at some point?
I don't know. Right now, it's so day to day, minute by minute. I mean, it's just one of these things we just wake up and it's just like, what are we gonna have to deal with today? So ideally, there'll be a time when they finally leave our state alone, our people can breathe, and we can think about what's going to come next. If it's a statue, if it's an honorary memorial, whatever it is, but both Alex and Renee deserve to be remembered going forward. It's tragic what's happened to them. Their lives can't be lost in vain. If there's ever to be a martyr, a movement is built on top of the hope to overcome this tragedy and keep our state and community together.
Yeah, and the reason I say that is because, look, a lot of veterans lost their lives in what they thought was defending freedom. In the past, it really was defending freedom. These days, it's mainly aggressive wars in the Middle East for another country. But I think Alex Preddy and Renee Good lost their lives defending freedom here at home. And so that's a huge deal. That is not a small thing. So Alex, on behalf of the rest of the country, thank you to you and to Minnesota and of course to them for fighting the good fight and fighting it in my opinion, in the right way. It's Americans who are voicing their opinion, who are undaunted, fearless, but also, just not giving the government an excuse to commit more violence and more occupation. I just think you almost couldn't have done it any better. So again, if I can, on behalf of the country, thank you, brother.
Oh yeah, thanks so much. And we are so heartened by the outpouring of love and support we're beginning. I mean, the chant in Boston of we're cold and not afraid. Minnesota showed us how to be brave. Going on. I mean, those sort of things, those showings of solidarity really do matter. This isn't how I wanted Minnesota getting Bruce Springsteen's cannon, but the support and the love and everything that we have going on and coming at us, and everything that people are wishing for us and holding us up is valued. So thanks so much for having me on. Let me tell our story, and hopefully stick with us. Minnesota's part of the United States, and we need you all as well.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Representative Alex Falconer, member of the DFL, representing District 49A in Minnesota. Thank you, brother. We appreciate you.
All right, thanks a lot, Jen. Thanks.
No problem. All right, guys, I am going to do a bonus episode for the members, so stay right here if you're a member. I'm going to, speaking of protests, for those of you who haven't heard it, I want to tell you the story of when I went to go protest during Elian Gonzalez drama in Florida. If you haven't heard that story, that is an amazing story. So hit the join button below on YouTube or wherever you're watching, tyt.com/join. I'll see you in a minute.